It scored 3 against Partizan Belgrade to move into the last 32 of the Europa League. Raul Jimenez scores at injury time as Wolves beat Bratislava. Madison returns to the England squad despite the casino outing. Johnny Bairstow returns for must-win T20 International, although I believe he's out. Former England captain and Saints hooker Dylan Hartley retires at 33 due to injury. Lots of other stories, of course, Premier League tonight and tomorrow. I am here with Mr. Patrick Christys. How the devil?
Yes, very well, actually. Watch the mighty Manchester United clearly reclaim their spot at the top of world football.
Mighty again. This is it. We are so fickle. Woo. All of a sudden, they are fantastic. I think they're going to challenge for the table.
At the wheel.
They were better.
Yeah, well, look, actually, it was a decent performance, wasn't it? Although they were playing against some kind of Siberian minnows, weren't they?
Well, this is a team that are 10 points behind Red Star Belgrade, who got thumped 4-0 the night before. Do you know what I want to touch on as well? I mentioned Wolves. You know a team I didn't mention?
What?
Celtic.
Yes.
Lazio, away, last minute.
Wow.
Fantastic. Rangers beat Porto. What's going on?
What a fantastic day for football and therefore the world, Rich.
There you go. 9 teams from Britain involved in European games. I believe this is true, and none of them lost.
Yeah.
There you go. This has been a good couple of days.
You can do the maths.
I've just done the maths, and I think I'm correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good couple of days.
And it's that kind of insight that got you through on Dragon's Den.
There you go.
Well, look, Deborah, I've just done the maths, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. Okay.
I'm pretty sure, and then they ended up pulling out. We'll go into that story.
Wow, did not know that bit.
Did you not? We'll discuss that.
Carry on.
Break. Legally can't discuss that too much further. Man United, good win for Manchester United. A good win for Celtic. It was a very positive night, actually, for United. Obviously, Rashford scoring, Martial scoring. Another one for Greenwood, Mason Greenwood, who technically got an assist as well, although a slightly fortunate assist. Brilliant finish from Martial. Lovely finish from Rashford, who had 5 shots on goal yesterday.
Yeah, that's nice, actually, that Manchester United striker recognises that it might help if he's shot.
Yes. Do you think it's just a change in strategy?
Well, I get the impression that maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's just sat him down and just reminded him of what position he's in, where the goal is, and how to use his foot to put the ball there.
Right.
Because that to me just seems like that's been missing now for a while.
Well, that being said, and I think there's some interesting stats in the Sun on the game on and United. I believe that's now 5. I want to say 5-5 for Rashford. I think it's certainly 5-5 for Martial. So they're on a nice little scoring spree at the moment, and it's good. It's positive signs for United, albeit as you mentioned against Partizan.
Yes. So some stats, Rich. 2. Mason Greenwood has scored in both his Europa League games at Old Trafford. Anthony Martial has netted in back-to-back Europa League games for the first time. He also has 5 goals in his last 7 United starts in all competitions. United had as many shots on target here, 1, in the first 10 minutes as they did in either of their previous 2 Europa League games. That is my worst stat of the day.
Well, because
that is the most pointless stat. United managed as many shots on target here, 1, in the first 10 minutes as they did in their previous 2 Europa League games. That is just there to fill a bit of paper, isn't it?
Do you think?
Yeah, massively so. It's nonsense. Anyway.
Do you know a good stat? They haven't conceded yet in the Europa League, which is a good stat.
That's a good stat.
Yeah.
That's a good stat.
I think they're the only team that is the case.
Yeah, okay. Marcus Rashford also has 5 goals in 7 games at Old Trafford. So, yes, jolly good.
A quick word on Greenwood.
Yeah.
Looking the part.
He does well. Yeah, he does.
It was a lovely finish last night, has to be said. Nice touch. Brought it inside. Fooled the goalkeeper back on himself. It was a nice finish. Martial's was a brilliant finish as well, actually. It's nice to see if they're going to win 3-0. You'd want those 3 on the score sheet. Interesting going into the game at the weekend. I know we're going to touch on predicted lineups, and a few people have had their say on this as to how United should line up. But no, certainly positive again after a pretty dismal display against Bournemouth.
Yes, absolutely. We're back at it, which is nice to see. It looks as though Newcastle are going to be offering Granit Xhaka an exit route.
This is the rumour. Now, do you think that's a good fit?
Well, potentially. Potentially, because I think you look at what they've got at Newcastle at the minute. The only thing I would say, though, is they've got Sean Longstaff, haven't they?
They've got John Joe Shelby, the 2 Longstaff brothers. They've got, fairness, they have got, that's actually one of the positions I say they don't necessarily need a player. I mean, saying that, of course, Granit Xhaka, you often see this with players, and I'll use a couple of goalkeepers as examples, where they go to the big club, it don't quite work out. Brad Friedel, good example, went to Liverpool, never quite happened for one reason or another, then goes to Blackburn and is a legend there. The fans absolutely love him. So sometimes you feel they come down just that level and suddenly they become the standout player. That might be the case for Granit Xhaka. I can't help but feel he goes abroad.
Yeah, I think he will go abroad just because I think he wants a clean break, and he is, I think, more respected on the continent than he is over here personally. So, yes, I'd be quite surprised if he went to Newcastle. If he did go to Newcastle, I would expect that might mean that they're resigned to losing maybe one of the Longstaff brothers. I doubt they're going to lose John Joe Shelby.
No,
I'm not sure anyone wants him.
I'd happen to agree with that. There's some other interesting stories in the back pages today, I believe, too. I did see a small story that the FIFA are talking about potentially reducing the bans on certain drugs for footballers, certainly recreational drugs. So whereas before you'd be looking at potentially up to a 4-year ban for, say, having cocaine, for instance. Now, that doesn't obviously improve performance, but certain players that have been caught out taking cocaine in the past would be given lengthy bans, a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 or 4 years. They're talking now to reduce it to as little as a month. Thoughts?
I find it odd. I just find it odd. It seems like a kind of needless backward step. I don't know why it doesn't seem to be a particular clamour for this to be happening. It just seems bizarre that they are doing it. And I also think it sends out a dangerous message, and a bit of a weird one as well, because football is getting even more professional by the day, isn't it? And footballers are getting even more professional. You know, the drinking culture of the past. Now, I'd be amazed to see how many football players really still drink in a big way.
Very few. It's such a shame, isn't it?
No, I mean, gone are the days of the Christmas party fiascos that we used to get. We have to reserve them for this office.
I know, such a shame, such a shame. No, only playing, of course. It's good that football's getting more and more professional. Do you know what I would say now, actually? I suppose Ronaldo's led the way in this in many ways. Actually, not just Ronaldo, a few of them have. In that, realistically, if you're going to reach the level of Ronaldo, I would argue that you would have to be so clean in everything you do. I don't think that you could have a lifestyle whereby the old school player who would drink on maybe a Saturday, drink on a Tuesday, have had the Wednesday off as well. Yeah. I think it'd be very, very tough to live that lifestyle and still be able to put in the amount of work you would need to do in order to reach that level.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. But yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if football players now saw this as a green light for, you know, to go out and start doing cocaine and things like that. It just seems very alien to me that it's a really weird step. Like football is just pulling in a completely different direction, and then it's that classic thing, isn't it? Like absolutely no one, football, 1 month ban for cocaine. Right. Okay.
Wow. That's a complete.
Wow, football. Well, I'll have to think about it.
Complete U-turn. Do you know what there is as well? And there's rumours about this, whether it's true or not. People have got their different beliefs. But
you're about to name footballers who are on the...
Let's name them all now.
Okay,
no,
here we go. What?
No.
Oh, no.
No, let's not. No, but there are rumours that from time to time, certain injuries that players pick up in training,
yes.
there's always suspicions whether they're injuries or not. Now, look, if it's a month, if it's reduced to a month, suddenly that injury doesn't need to be a serious one anymore. And actually, the amount of players that might just want to take Christmas off, you know, they've now got a...
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You just see them like now, you know, Manchester United line up with a team of 15-year-olds. Wow, a lot of energy from the from the non-playing squad there in the stands. Well, all of them topless.
Indeed. Well, they've been posting stuff on social media mid-December.
Yeah, at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
This post came live, yes.
Begging to be drug tested, so... Indeed. So a strange step, I would agree, but they're talking about it's not definite. There's a meeting in Poland, I believe, next month, so we'll see how that one plays out.
Fantastic.
What else is going on this morning?
So some more developments in the whole Team Sky drugs. You know, didn't they fiasco? Lawyers will question the integrity and credibility of former Team Sky head coach Shane Sutton. Basically, what happens here is at least once a week another name gets thrown into the mix. So which I personally enjoy, and raise allegations. They're going to raise allegations of bullying as part of Dr. Richard Freeman's defence over the delivery of banned testosterone to British cycling headquarters. So we know really that there were sachets of Testogel delivered to Team Sky's headquarters and potentially distributed on, certainly historically. These came actually from a shop in Bolton called Fit for Life, so you know it's good. Anyway, former team Dr. Freeman admitted 18 of 22 offences, including ordering the banned substance. However, he continues to deny that he asked for a delivery of 30 sachets of Testogel in 2011 so they could be given to an athlete to improve his performance. And now all these allegations of kind of bullying and the fact that he might have been forced to order these drugs and things like that, these are all coming to the fore now.
So that will continue. Another big story on the back of the Sun in particular, of course, City, Liverpool. We know what happened last time, or certainly last season. There was an issue with the team bus when it arrived at Anfield. They're actually talking about potentially taking a secret route into Anfield, which I can't help but feel there can't be that many routes into Anfield.
Oh, no, I think you've got that really wrong, mate.
Go on.
Well, I would have thought there'd be quite an extensive tunnel network.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
So we're talking some Shawshank Redemption way into... But I might have just ruined that film for anyone that hasn't seen it. But we're talking some secret route into Anfield. I don't know if that exists.
I once, one of the very first shows that I ever did, we had a film critic on, and it was, I can't remember what film it was now, but I just as a joke was like, what happens right at the end? And he just told me.
No,
I was like,
he didn't.
mate.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So you think, but they have spoke about, they're a little bit concerned about this. I think certain banners have gone up already and they're making a bit of a deal of it. They want to turn it into a European night, which of course it is a massive night or a massive afternoon, certainly for both clubs. If Liverpool were to win, 9 points clear, of course. So the fans are going to try and make it intimidating. They did overstep the mark last time out.
Yeah, so Manchester City are demanding guarantees there will be no repeat of their bus attack. This comes after COP fans were urged to, quote, greet the coach.
Yes, and that's what they'll do. Well, Klopp was asked if this is a must-win game by an interviewer, and this was his reply.
I'm sorry, we could, maybe there are other people who are smarter than I am and can see it like this. I don't see it like this. For me, it's a 100% want-to-win game.
Want to win.
Want to win, 100% with all I have. And this must win, must thing, I never understood because that doesn't change the chances.
Interesting wording from Mr. Klopp. Want to win.
Want to win.
Not need to win, not must win, want to win.
That's quite a clever little phrase, that, really.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of sucked the life out of all the headlines this morning,
really
hasn't
has.
he? You
Really
know, Klopp
has.
must win games, says Liverpool boss, you know.
Yeah.
No, I want to win it.
No, we'd like to.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we won.
I'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, it would be okay.
It wouldn't displease me.
Yes.
If
thinking
we
of
won.
Lots of different ways we can word this. I mean, this could carry on for quite some time.
Probably shouldn't, though.
No.
So there's a lot going about today about this game.
Yeah.
About Claudio Bravo and how he's essentially City's worst nightmare.
Well, do you know, and I feel a bit sorry because they picked one of the papers have picked some quotes from Bravo about essentially how he's nervous. It turns out when I read further in the story, the quotes were from a book like Pep City or something like this. This book that came out a month ago, and some random interview with him there where he spoke about how difficult it is being a number two, not playing regularly. There's a piece from David Priest as well in one of the papers where he talks about being a number two, something that I can give a lot of information on as well, where he made the point, and it's one that I agree with, which is when Edison is that good and you've got a number two who hasn't necessarily got the best of reputations, he will be stepping in with more pressure on his shoulders.
Yeah. Because
fans... Look, do you know what it is? Romero's the complete opposite. Like, United fans love Romero. He's fantastic. So when De Gea's injured, it's not suddenly like, oh no, someone's come, where it is that with City, and I do feel a bit sorry for Bravo because he is going to have a lot of pressure.
Well, let's just do a bit of a comparison, shall we?
Okay, go on. I like this.
So games between Edison and Claudio Bravo. Edison's 85, Bravo 25. Goals conceded, Edison 59, Bravo 27. So concedes more than one goal a game.
Right, yeah.
Shots faced 64. So what's 27 out of 64?
Yeah, it's pretty high percentage, nearly 50%.
It's pretty ridiculous. Yeah. Save percentage is 58% to Edison 71%.
Yeah.
Minutes per goal conceded, Edison 129, Bravo 81.
Yeah.
The City only have a 60% win rate when Claudio Bravo's in goal, whereas they have an 82% win rate when Edison's there. He's only kept 6 clean sheets to Edison's 41. Also, his passing accuracy, which was supposed to be his speciality, is considerably lower than Edison's. He's on 74%, which for a goalkeeper I think is pretty bad, actually. And Edison's 85%.
Right, well, there you
also,
go.
Edison's created 4 chances and Bravo's created 0. Yeah.
Okay, well, no doubt. We've touched on everything here, which is nice. It sets up the show. So much to get deeper into. One serious story, which we will touch on the front pages of many of the papers. I'll allow you just to touch on this.
Yeah, okay. So, look, I can't comment on this. We can't comment on this because this is an ongoing police matter. However, a police officer has been charged. A police officer has been charged with murder over the taser death of ex-Aston Villa star Dalian Atkinson, the first case of its kind in Britain. The police officer appeared in court in Birmingham yesterday with a female officer as well, who was charged with assault causing actual bodily harm. It comes after Atkinson, who was 48, died after he was, well, according to the Sun, felled by the electric shock device, i.e. a taser, when police were called to an alleged bust-up with his dad in Telford, Shropshire, 3 years ago.
Okay, right, we're going to be talking business after this.
This is Love Sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
Discreet.
leak.
Masculine.
You're in.
Secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in.
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in.
No.
Hi, I'm Marilyn from Oxfordshire. My current insurance company quoted £245 and 8 pence to reinsure. And a spokesman said, obtain me a price of £173.49 for the same cover. This was a fantastic saving for me. And next time my car insurance comes up for renewal, I will be going through a spokesman said. No doubt about that.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport.
That's what breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Patrick Christys doesn't know anything that I do.
Well, you look very brown,
Well, I've told
Rich.
you that. I've just told you that
Yes.
I made a little bit of an effort.
How long did you spend on the
We don't need to go into
on our
details.
holiday yesterday?
On holiday, yeah, I had a lovely. I flew away for 12
Did you?
minutes.
I went on a 7-minute holiday earlier
Did
this
you?
week.
Oh,
Yeah. Do you
fantastic.
remember that time I accidentally went on a 20-minute holiday?
Yes, that didn't end well, did it?
No.
Not with your milky skin.
She had to come and rescue me from inside the kind of cocoon of burning.
Well, it was weird that she padlocked it. What was that all about?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. She said something
Yeah.
about, I listened to TalkSport.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to move on. We are going to talk some business. Do you know what? We had someone message yesterday. Callum loves the business tune. So we're going to play the business tune.
It's business. It's business time. I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say it's time for business. It's business time.
Ooh, it's business. Yeah, wait for it. It's coming. Here it is. Ow. Mr. Chris Bailey.
It's probably better that was turned down, wasn't it? Really, 'cause
Really?
that was going to go somewhere which should have broken various broadcasting rules.
We've already gone way past that, Chris. That time has passed.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are we, Chris?
I'm very good, Rich. I was wondering what Callum said about me. I mean, did he just say I love the theme music? Shame about the speaking afterwards.
Oh,
or,
no, he was incredibly positive. This is his favourite section in the show. I'm pretty sure he switches off after this. So take that as a positive.
Well, that's good. I'll have to. Anyway, thanks, Callum. That's really appreciated.
Great stuff. Let's talk some business. Profits car crash at Aston Martin.
Oh, goodness gracious. Aston Martin. You know, the good news is they've got 4 cars in the next James Bond film. No doubt James will crash at least one of them. The only trouble is their profits and share price have been an absolute disaster. But don't fear. Get this. Next year they're launching their new SUV, a mere snip at 158,000 quid. Clearly, that's obviously going to revitalise their fortunes. Not. There you go. But obviously, I will test drive one if they want me to.
Yeah, what's happened with Aston Martin? Because that was like such a cool brand for so long. Has it just lost its...
Still cool. I rate it.
I still think it's cool. The trouble is, it's a blooming difficult business to be in. You know, A, there's lots of competition. B, you're not actually selling that many cars. And C, it's just kind of expensive and lumpy and horrible. It's not a good business to have on the stock market. It's the sort of thing that should be owned by some, you know, megalomaniac somewhere who kind of, you know, shoves them a couple of £100 million every few years to keep them going. So, yeah, the share price has been an absolute shocker year to date. Don't buy the shares, but have a test drive in one of the cars, I'd say.
Yeah, do not blame you. Europe worries about Apple Pay.
Well, this is Europe being silly again, really. Look, I go to China fairly frequently. You go to China and mobile commerce is huge there. You know, it's kind of embarrassing to come back to London or even to go to the States or whatever and not to be able to do everything with your phone. Europe's getting on its high horse saying they worry about Apple Pay being too dominant and aggressive within Europe. I think it's the reality is that actually Europe hasn't got its own solution and is way behind the curve. So hence Apple Pay or Google Pay, they worry about them being too strong. What I suggest is they get over to China and see some of the brands over there, which are, you know, it's just, I've probably told you before, I lined up in a coffee shop in Beijing and all these grannies were in front of me, 70, 80-year-old grannies, and they were all paying with their phones for their coffees. One idiot in the line, me, was paying with cash, and it almost freaked out the cashier. They looked at me as almost like, what century are you from type thing. It was just wholly embarrassing.
Can you see that we'll move into a cashless society?
Well, it's happening, isn't it, progressively? I mean, you know, Patrick obviously is a young whippersnapper. He probably thinks that cash is this weird thing which, you know, people from the last century talk about. But the reality is, you know, we're moving that way, aren't we? We have far less cash. We do a lot fewer things with cash now, you know, be it with cards or be it with your phone or whatever. It's coming, you know. We have to embrace it. Europe has to embrace it.
Yeah. When I used to live in the Lake District and contactless cards first came in, they were quite behind the times up there. I remember the first time I used one, the cashier didn't even know that the kind of card machine was capable of this voodoo. So, like, I touched it.
They thought you'd stolen, basically.
Yeah, essentially.
You just kind of walked out the store saying, "Yeah, I've paid," and you know, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever seen those videos of when people put cucumbers near cats and the cats are like, whoa, what is this? It was exactly like that. I kind of paid it and it went like beep, beep, beep. And she's like, whoa, what? What did you just do? What happened? And then I had to explain that this is the future now and we live in it.
There you go. Disney really, really, really excited about streaming.
Well, yeah, Disney's launching Disney Plus in a couple of days in the States. It's coming to Europe at the end of March next year. This is their new streaming channel. Watch all your Marvel, Star Wars, Disney films and whatever else in one place for a few dollars a month. And the shares loved it. They came up with numbers yesterday evening. Share price went zooming up afterwards. But get this, you know, from a sporting perspective, they've already launched ESPN Plus, which is their sports equivalent. And, you know, they've gone from 2 million subscribers earlier this year to over 4 million now. So it goes to show you that, you know, streaming is huge and Disney are loving it. So, you know, watch out for your Disney Plus opportunities, say, in Europe from March next year.
I'll be all over that. Fantastic. Chris, as always, thank you.
Have a good one.
Have a fantastic weekend. Chris Bailey, founder of FinancialOrbit.com. Got a T20 update for you, Mr. Christys.
Jolly good.
England hit their highest T20 international score, setting New Zealand 2-4-2 to win the fourth T20 international.
Wow.
That's pretty massive, right?
That's ridiculous.
Just trying to figure out the average per...
Well, yeah, but so basically back in the day...
12 and over.
Yeah, you wouldn't have even scored that in a one-day international, let alone a T20. Do you remember the Super Over that England had? Well, they had to defend 14. So it is doable, but it means that basically every over has to be like that.
Yeah.
New Zealand. So it might be worth watching that game, to be fair.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be really, really exciting. Good work, England. Lots going on today. Arsene Wenger looks like he's not going to be the Bayern Munich manager.
This was quite tragic.
A bit awkward.
So apparently he called them up.
Yeah.
And was like, oh, hey guys, it's Arsene. How are you? And they're like, yeah, all right, mate. Oh, what's it going? I don't know if you've seen what I've been saying recently, but I'd be quite up for it. And essentially they were like, no, you're not. It's not for us, Arsene. Just sit back down, put your dressing gown back on, and face the looking window.
Oh, that is quite awkward.
Yeah.
Is that exactly how it played out?
Pretty much, yeah. But actually, because I was going to do it in the accent, but I've been told I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
You're not?
No.
Oh, that was like some of my favourite bits of Patrick Christys.
I know. I know.
You're allowed to do a Steve Bruce still, though, right?
Oh, I'll still do the Steve Bruce.
good.
That's fine. That's not really offensive to anyone.
No.
But yeah, no, German, French, Spanish.
Yeah.
That's out the window. Weirdly, Norwegian as well, apparently not allowed to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really annoying. Actually, on Steve Bruce, of course, there is the rumour that Granit Xhaka may be joining Newcastle. We did hear from Steve Bruce on this, as he had some interesting things to say.
Why, Pet? How are the lads?
That's Steve Bruce there. Quite excited about the idea of Granit Xhaka. We got a 6-pointer tonight.
Yeah?
Yeah, Norwich, Watford, bottom of the
Norwich,
table clash.
Watford.
This is actually a massive game this evening, certainly for Watford. 11 games unbeaten. You know, the last time Premier League, many years ago, 10 games unbeaten. 10 games without a win, my
Right,
bad.
the opposite.
The complete opposite.
Okay.
And they ended up getting relegated. Of course, it's 11 games now, and they're not looking particular. Only 5 points from those 11 games. Norwich must win game for both teams.
Yeah, I like it. So we've got a 6-pointer today, and we've got a 6-pointer at the weekend as well with Liverpool City. So yeah, absolutely. I think the pressure on Quique Sánchez Flores is pretty monumental. He's had 9 games? I think he's been in charge. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he hasn't managed to overturn their fortunes just yet. Do you think he'll still be there in a couple of weeks' time?
Knowing Watford as I do, they like to live in chaos.
Right.
So I would say that it's certainly not guaranteed. He hasn't actually. Do you know what he has done? He's improved them defensively. They've picked up several draws, conceding a lot fewer goals than they were previously. So no, he'll be given a little bit of time. But I just feel if they don't win this, I mean, I don't know what the bookies have them at the moment, but if they don't win this, then for me, I'm really concerned as a Watford fan that this, unfortunately, may be a relegation season. So I think this is a huge, huge game. We're going to be talking about this so much more. Do stay tuned. 3 minutes to 7.
This is Love Sport.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F, face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A, arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S, speech. Is their speech slurred? T, time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
Last One Breakfast, Last One Radio. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Right, this next hour, we're going to be speaking to Jordan Russell, Wolves fan cast. Of course, Wolves beat Bratislava 1-0 at Molineux last night. They're looking pretty good. Tough group they're in as well. So we'll speak to Jordan about that. Sam Roberts as well, BT Sport rugby commentator and journalist, talking about Dylan Hartley, who has retired. We'll also be talking a saint in Northampton, but occasionally controversial. What will be his legacy? I am here with Mr. Patrick Christys, who's also going to be going through the different Man United lineups. We've got a Paul Scholes lineup. We've got an Owen Hargreaves lineup. Both pretty different as well. So we'll be discussing that shortly. As always, get in touch 0208 7020 558 or on YouTube.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7. Some breaking news. 3 severe flood warnings which carry a risk to life have been issued for the River Don near Doncaster. Heavy downpours overnight have hit parts of Yorkshire. Some areas received 80 millimetres or more, the typical rainfall for the entire month of November. In Sheffield, police declared a major incident. Farouk Sabir's off licence in the city has been badly hit.
Tried to salvage anything was just impossible to salvage anything out of it at the moment, so it's when we go back in and see what extended the damage, and the smell is horrendous round here.
Rail services in South Yorkshire have also been affected. Labour have promised working women 3 more months of maternity cover if they win the election. The party says they'd increase statutory pay to a whole year. Elsewhere, the Conservatives are announcing a fast-track visa system for foreign nationals wanting to work in the NHS. A court in New Zealand has heard forensic evidence about blood found in the hotel room of a man accused of strangling British backpacker Grace Millane. An expert says it's 500,000 million times more likely to belong to her than anyone else. The 27-year-old man denies her murder, claiming she died accidentally in Auckland last December. 9 suspects have now been detained in Vietnam in connection with the Essex lorry trailer deaths. They're being questioned about illegal immigration after 39 bodies were found on an industrial estate in Essex last month. Manchester United beat Partizan Belgrade 3-0 last night to book their place in the Europa League knockout stages. Manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says it was just the performance he wanted from his side after naming a strong team.
This is a little bit of a template on how we want to play, definitely. But of course it's the opposition that allow you to play this way as well. There's no disrespect to Partizan, but they gave us spaces.
Celtic are also through to the last 32 after winning 2-1 at Lazio. Rangers beat Porto 2-0 at Ibrox. That's the latest. I'm Rosa McRae.
Love sport.
If your ideas challenge the status quo, if you have advised people you had no right advising, if you built companies and lost companies and built them again, if you've been called a pillock, a dreamer, an innovator and a genius, if you thrive in the 11th hour, if you have blown it and completely nailed it in the same day, prepare for your next departure.
Do business right. Travel Virgin Atlantic.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, me, Richard Lee and Patrick Christys. Let's touch on the top stories this morning. United score 3 against Partizan Belgrade to move into the last 32 of the Europa League. Raul Jimenez scores an injury time as Wolves beat Bratislava. Actually caused a bad injury as well, we'll touch on that. Yes. Maddison returns to the England squad despite Casino outing, but still no place in Southgate's side for Grealish. Johnny Bairstow returns for the must-win T20. In fact, they have just posted a score of 242 to, well, one of the highest. It might be the highest that they have put together. Former England captain and Saints hooker Dylan Hartley retires at the age of 33. Also, Arsene Wenger is out of the running, we believe, to become Bayern Munich manager. And of course, Norwich and Watford meet tonight. I am joined by Mr. Patrick Christys. Oh, one more. Celtic beat Lazio last minute.
What
away.
Result? What
Boom.
result?
What a result. Fantastic.
Yeah, actually, I get on quite well with prominent Celtic fan, former prolific politician George Galloway, and he was absolutely loving it last night.
I bet he was.
Yeah, he really was.
It wasn't.
I'll try to get him on, actually.
That'd be nice.
I'll
Good
give him a bell
shout.
later on.
Good shout. Do you know, and Rangers beat Porto as well. It was a fantastic couple of days for our British teams, it has to be said.
Yes.
Very, very impressive. But yeah, Celtic last minute winner. There was a bad injury in that Wolves game, just want to touch on. And Raul Jimenez, again, we saw a similar thing to Son, where he's injured the guy, then he scored, and he's done the whole praying thing within minutes of injuring the guy. I don't know if it quite felt the same, but it was a good goal. It was a bad
this lot
injury.
don't go off to war, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you imagine just every single minute of it? Oh no, guys, just stop now for a second. Let's do a praying gesture, and I will just pretend to be the Buddha. Come on.
What do you think then? Just like,
well, you're playing football.
True.
You've not gone out there to try and hurt someone.
No.
You know, you've accidentally, well, in the case of Son, obviously it was particularly bad. Last night it was basically a bicycle kick to the face. It happens.
Yeah. Would you argue that goes back to the high feet and when people moan a bit when it's high feet? Actually, that was a good example.
Low head is what I'll say to that.
Really?
Low head.
I think it was really high feet.
Low head.
Right. What do you think? Low head or high feet? 0208 70 20 558. I see we've got some messages on YouTube. Do keep them coming in. So Arsene Wenger want to touch on this in a bit more detail. Poor old Arsene, because it looked like he was going to get the Bayern Munich job. It looks like he isn't now. We believe the reason is that he asked for a long-term contract, and Bayern Munich were only willing to offer him until the end of the season.
Yes, so Wenger, 70, apparently demanded a long-term contract from Bayern Munich, to which they said 9! And
that's the number of years he asked for, actually.
Yeah.
Interestingly.
Yeah, so no, he's been turned down. It was after talks held with Bayern chairman Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. So the German giants were only willing to offer a deal until the end of the season, something that Wenger was not interested in.
Why do you think they wouldn't just offer him like a 5-year contract?
I've got no idea, Rich. I mean, why not go the whole hog and just give him 8 years? Yeah.
It just seems strange. I mean, he's got such a good track record.
Yeah.
I mean, he was with Arsenal for however many years and did a fantastic job for the majority, maybe not the last few years. So, I mean, wouldn't you think if you're Bayern Munich, you'd just give him a long-term contract?
Yeah, you would have thought so. I'd love to see how that turns out as well. I've got a friend who goes around looking for money quite often, and he's a businessman, and he says that he's quite old, and he says that when he goes into places now, you'll sit around, there'll be like a boardroom, and you'll outline your business proposals, it's all going really well, everything's fine, and then at some point, someone called like Mervyn, who's like 34 years old, they've got like a brightly coloured polka dot shirt on and like, moleskin boots, and will just go, have you got a succession plan? and then essentially what you are confronted there with is your own mortality, and you have to produce someone where you go, well, look, and as you can see here now, young Tony, we call him, young Tony will take over from me. I can guarantee you, in the unlikely event that I die, everything's going to be fine.
Right, so what Arsene needs is like a mini-me.
Well, young Tony could be Tony Adams, couldn't it?
Of course it could. It could. Tony Adams taking over Bayern Munich.
Because otherwise it might get to a stage where, like, oh no, Bayern Munich have revealed their team. It's got Dennis Bergkamp up front. It's got Patrick Vieira in midfield.
And Arsene is cursing Sir Alex.
Yeah, he's cursing Sir Alex, and we've got Jens Lehmann in goal. Yeah.
Sol Campbell has made a return. No, do you know what? It does. Is this ageism?
I think it might be quite realistic. We can't just look, man. You can't go dishing out, massively long-term contracts to 70-year-olds, can you?
No, I'm surprised in a way actually that Arsene Wenger wouldn't want to take it on until the end of the season, because I think it would be it'd be a nice challenge, wouldn't it? I mean, it'd be a massive challenge.
I don't see why he doesn't do it.
They're doing great in Europe. I mean, again, we don't know how much truth there is to this story. I mean, it's in one of the very reputable papers, of course. So I'm sure there's so much truth, but. If it is true that he's been offered at the end of the season, I just think, go on, it's a nice challenge. They're doing great in Europe. Okay, they're not, they're fourth in the Bundesliga, but the chances are they'll certainly be top 2 if they don't win it. So why not? Give it a go, Arsene.
Give it a go, Arsene. Come on, Arsene.
Indeed. What else is going on the back pages today?
There's quite a lot going about. So Gareth Southgate has picked James Maddison in his squad. No room for Jack Grealish, interestingly. We should have a chat about that. But James Maddison has been told that he now must become, quote, high performance, low maintenance if he's going to thrive in Gareth Southgate's squad.
Yeah.
It's after he was pictured at a casino after dropping out ill.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people that have tried the opposite, the low performance, high maintenance.
Oh, yeah? Who?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't talk about me and you because we're obviously both. We're high performance, high maintenance.
Yeah,
we get a lot of scuffles between each other, a lot of
time.
disagreements, and what we need to do in order to keep this level of performance, you're going to need some maintenance.
Yeah, we go through that wall on a daily basis.
I would argue, certainly the last 3 years of my career, I was definitely no performance, really high maintenance.
Were you?
Yeah, an hour with a physio every single day to go and do 10 minutes of training. It was a little bit embarrassing.
Really?
And then they'd wheel me out to be a substitute goalkeeper. And then finally, when they called upon me, I conceded 6. So it was kind of years worth of effort for very little reward. I felt a little bit guilty towards
Is it true that players used to call it doing a Rich Lee?
Where did you hear that?
It's in the press.
Yeah. What paper? What paper picked up?
I don't know, but I googled your name the other day and it came up.
Did they?
I think it sounded like you'd said that yourself.
So doing a Rich Lee was wait until Friday and training on Friday and then being available for the Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so taking the first part of the week off. To be honest, it takes a bit of recovery.
You look really
after.
disappointed that I brought this up.
Yeah, because I didn't know you knew that.
Oh, it's just online.
Right. Well, that's disappointing.
Okay.
But yeah, and that was only the last 3 years. I'll be honest, the first 12 years of my career, I was really professional.
Okay, good. It's
Yeah,
all right, mate. If it makes you feel any better, if you Google my name, you just get a procession of court documents.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Are they all gone now, or are they?
No, not at all.
Excellent. Still, we can't talk about them for legal reasons. What else is going on in the back pages?
Okay, so the war on Saracens is hotting up yet again.
Is it? So what's the latest? Okay, so those that are just joining us for this story, obviously it's been going on the last couple of days, but it's interesting to me in that the narrative seems to be changing quite a lot. Lots of people got lots of different opinions. I can't help but feel there's certain agendas that are coming to play.
Massively so. And look, I think that they have fired off their best weapons already, as it were, and now they've essentially wheeled out Danny Kerr to say things like Saracens have damaged livelihoods and cost people their jobs by breaking Premiership salary cap rules, suggesting that they should be relegated from the Championship for 3 seasons, the same period of time during which they were found to have broken payment rules. Just in case you're not aware of this, Saracens, powerhouse of rugby, fined £5.36 million and docked 35 points for breaching the salary cap. It is following a 9-month independent investigation. But yeah, so the England and Harlequins scrum half, Danny Kerr, right, Harlequins being the key word there, thinks that Saracens have undermined other professionals by, he says, cheating, which part of me understands, I get where he's coming from, but that's the argument that I said about people that have done ball tampering in cricket or something like that. How many opening batsmen who've maybe needed a score if they're going through a tough spell have fallen foul of a bowler who's swinging it all over the place, but it turns out that bowler's been rubbing sun cream into the ball or using sandpaper or something like that. How many of their careers have been ended as a result of them getting out for naught in a game where essentially the bowler was cheating? You can't just go back and deal with all these hypothetical situations. And look, I dare say if Danny Cow was a better player, then he'd be playing for Saracens and he wouldn't have that much of an issue.
Okay. What do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558. Want to bring it back to football. Of course, there were plenty of games last night. Manchester United 3-0 against Partizan Belgrade.
Say it again, Rich.
3-0. And the goals scored by Greenwood, Martial, and, of course, Rashford. Rashford could have had more, actually. The goalkeeper did make many saves last night. They did look better going forward, United.
Yeah, do you see how their goalkeeper crossed himself before each free kick?
Yeah.
Which I thought was, I imagine if I was a striker taking a free kick and I saw that, I'd feel like belting it in.
Do you think that's just because he's seen what Rashford did the other week?
Potentially. He might have been terrified.
I'll tell you, let's hear Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on the Manchester United performance.
Yeah, we needed a win, but we needed a performance in which the boys wanted to go forward, play forward, run forward, score more than one goal. We could have had loads more tonight as well, so that's but a pleasing performance and very important for us just to get the points.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer there.
Yes.
Happy.
Well, he is. He's a happy man, isn't he? Okay, it was a good performance. In another interview, he said, "That's our template now." So there we go. Mason Greenwood, for his part, young lad, he scored 2 goals in his first 4 European matches for United. Solskjaer described him as the best natural finisher at the club. I mean, he looks good. He looks good in front of goal. I think, United were all right last night. It was a little bit stop-start at times, but they were never in trouble, were they?
No, we're going to talk a bit of rugby shortly, but just before we do, I'm just going to give you a couple of lineups, and we can allow these to marinate, and we can then discuss them.
Good turn of phrase, mate.
Thank you. I got it right, didn't I?
Yeah, fester would have been another one.
Fester will allow us to fester in your mind, and you can consider this. Owen Hargreaves said his starting 11 would be De Gea, Tunzebe, Maguire, Lindelof as like a back 3, Shaw left wing back, Wan-Bissaka right wing back, McTominay and Pogba, and then up front Rashford on the left, Martial down the middle, Greenwood on the right. You've then got Paul Scholes, who said he would have a
Paul Scholes up front, Paul Scholes attacking midfield, Paul Scholes in centre midfield.
Yeah, it's a great team.
Yeah.
It's a great team. He's going for more of I'd say a 4-5-1. You could argue 4-3-3 to an extent, but he's gone Shaw, Maguire, Twinzebe, Wan-Bissaka, of course, the Herring goal as his back 4. He's then got McTominay and Pogba. He's then got Greenwood on the right, James on the left, Rashford behind Martial. Both interestingly got Martial as a number 9.
Yes, I am concerned about Harry Maguire. He looks like a lumbering ox who's forgotten how to play football.
He got fortunate last night. There was a poor pass.
He got fortunate a couple of times, mate. His positioning wasn't great, but several times this season, when United have conceded, he's been within about a 5-yard radius of where the ball is when the strikers hit it, and he's not even been able to be in a position to throw himself out. Like, it just seems bizarre for me, and I don't want it to seem like I was expecting this guy to basically be, a human brick wall, but I wasn't expecting far off that, to be honest, and he just hasn't looked composed with the ball at his feet. He's looked quite slow for me, actually. He turns a bit like the QE2 now, and I think he looks like he's filled out more.
Okay. What do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558. Is he the player? I do wonder, and I've said this before on players that move for large amounts of money, and of course, record transfer fee for a defender, come with a lot of expectation. United not doing so. I'll be honest, he started off, I thought, pretty positively. I agree there's been a couple of games recently where he hasn't quite looked himself, but I do think there's a certain amount of pressure that comes with that, and naturally the spotlight is on him that bit more. I'd love to see, and I'll see if I can get this, probably not for today, but certainly for next week. They do all the stats on the players. Now, last season, Harry Maguire's stats were incredible.
Yeah,
you wouldn't believe how good they were. It'd be interesting to see if he's up with those stats, because that'll be quite a...
He could be.
I'll see if I can get hold of them. We're going to be talking some rugby next.
This is Love Sport. Follow @Love Sport Radio on Twitter for all the latest news, views, competitions, and the best bits from your favourite station. Love Sport, the station giving fans a voice.
Hello, my name's Paula. I'm from the Shropshire area and I'm a business development manager. I use a spokesman said for my car insurance, where I've saved over £500, and also on travel insurance as well. So in total, me and my family have saved about £600. I would definitely use it again, and I would definitely recommend it.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
This is Love Sport.
Also, breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. We've got our water. You need to stay hydrated when you do this. It's important, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, you have to.
Yeah,
You have
keep
to,
those
otherwise
energy
you just
levels.
go under.
Yeah, keep those energy levels high. Keep the conversation flowing. We're going to talk some rugby now. Dylan Hartley to retire. Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator and journalist, is on the line to discuss it with us. Morning, Sam.
Good morning, chaps. Lovely to talk to you.
Likewise. Dylan Hartley, 96 appearances for England, former England rugby captain, due to retire.
Yeah, extraordinary legacy for me. One that really changed England's fortunes, took them from the doldrums of 2015 when they crashed out of the Rugby World Cup, their own Rugby World Cup at the group stages, all the way to that wonderful win against the All Blacks and somewhat malfunction in the World Cup final. I think, despite the fact that he didn't play in this Rugby World Cup, his imprint was all over this England team, and his legacy for me is very, very strong. I probably think you're going to talk to me about the fact that he spent rather a long time off field, but for me, that was a byproduct of the position he played and the way that he played the game. And I don't think if you spoke to Dylan Hartley, he'd change anything.
Yeah, I was going to say your suspicions are correct. Keen to know if that was is that the main reason that he is calling it a day, you think?
No, the main reason he's calling it a day is because of plastic pictures and his knee. His knee has never fully recovered it took around the sort of hard and plastic pitches. There are about 3 or 4 in the Premiership. And he has said, probably not on the record, but I'm aware of the fact that he's not ever so happy, as are a number of players with these slightly harder 4G pitches. And it's never really recovered. And he probably is of the opinion that it will never quite get back to the state that he wants it to be in, that he needs it to be in to play at least Premiership rugby. And so between him and the medics, they've decided that enough is enough, and he will go on, and he probably wants to be able to walk later on in life. So I think that's probably the best idea for him.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. He's been banned. A total of 60 weeks since 2007. I know one in particular, 26-week ban for making contact with the eye of Wasp forward James Haskell. So he certainly had a bit of controversy.
There was actually 2 contacts with the eye during that game, 2 different players. Yeah, I mean he is right on the front line. I've never played international front row rugby. I'm not sure if you two have, but I reckon it is a pretty hot furnace, and to operate in the sort of levels that Dylan Hartley has done, I think you need to let's say operate on the line, and occasionally his toes went over the line and he got caught. More cynical operators in the rugby world would say he was very good at it. He was just very good, or should I say, he was not very good at not getting caught. You know, and to a certain extent, everyone knows how tough it is in there. Yes, it will be something that perhaps his detractors knock him for. The fact that he missed out on the Lions call, very famously for calling a referee a cheat and using slightly fruitier language than I just have. You know, I think it might detract for some people, but not for me. He was an extraordinary individual. 17 of the 18 matches that England went unbeaten after the 2015 World Cup. Dylan Hartley was the first name on that team sheet for 17 out of those 18 matches. The only one he didn't play in was the Uruguay one at the end of the 2015 World Cup, which is kind of, you know, sort of a dead rubber. 17 of those matches, he was the first name on that sheet. And for me, he is the reason why England now find themselves as one of the best teams in the world. And I don't think I can say any higher praise than that.
Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Let's just move on slightly. Saracens on the back page of the Times yet again. Now this time, Danny.
What have they done? What have they done? I don't know.
Yeah, no. Well, what they've done is they had a raffle. They had a raffle on, raised loads of money for a kids' charity, and that's it. That's the story. So well done, Saracens. You know what? We've done it now. We've covered it. So let's do. No, Danny Cass chimed in. He says that he thinks Saracens have damaged livelihoods and cost people their jobs by breaking the Premiership salary cap. He's calling for them to be relegated for 3 seasons, which of course is the number of seasons that there were, you know, severe question marks, I suppose, over how much they were paying players. What's your take on where we're up to with the whole Saracens saga?
We're in deep at the moment. This is dark and horrible and not nice. And from a rugby point of view, and I can only look at it from rugby. Not particularly proud. I'm not particularly proud of where we are, what's happening, the uncovering of it, the way that it's working. Of course, Saracens are going to sort of come out and suggest otherwise, suggest they didn't really mean to do it and they didn't really understand how it all worked and all these different things. But I think, you know, an independent dispute resolution company like Sporting Resolutions, when they pore over your books for 9 months, they are exceptionally good at what they do, and they would not have made this judgment with this heavier fine, with this heavier punishment, without some serious reason to do so. So whatever comes out of it, even if Saracens manage to wriggle out of it in some legal technicality, I think it casts a huge dark shadow over the sport. Rugby has always seemed to say that it was ethically, morally sort of superior in some way, and I don't think this does this anymore. And I think we've got to have a look at the way that we operate and the way that we do it. And we've got to start being honest. We've got to start coming out and taking responsibility for situations and saying we need to make this better. I think it's going to be a long time until this is over, and that's the saddest thing for me. I think we're going to be talking about this rather than the really good rugby that Northern Hemisphere and England were playing in the World Cup. We are now talking about this, and that is damning for me. It's really, really sad that we will now be spending the next year, 2 years, sorting this out.
You know, it's very true, and yeah, I think you made a really good point there. The only reason I want to just pick your brains on it again is because Rich and I have been talking about this now for a few days, as you can imagine, and I think we found it quite hard to match maybe the kind of repulsiveness of this from our perspectives that we're getting a lot in the press. I think, and I'm hoping you might be able to enlighten us with this. Like from my perspective, you know, you've got a multi-millionaire there in Nigel Ray who wants to put his money into a project and he wants to see some tangible success off the back of that. And I'm just wondering how bad this really is, because the situation at the minute is English players could go and make a lot more money playing in France, but they're not really allowed. And therefore, you know, you end up with a situation where you've kind of got to keep them in this country, and then you're not really guaranteed any success in this country unless maybe you do pay them quite a bit of money, and you know, these investment firms on the side and things. Is it as bad as it's being made out, or is it maybe that some of the clubs like your Exeters, like your Harlequins, are really going hard here to hope that they just kind of maybe destroy Saracens as opponents?
So this is an agreement that Premiership Rugby has made amongst themselves. It is not really legally enforceable to tell people that you can't, as a business, spend money to make money. You don't really find it. So this in any other sphere of business. So this is an agreement that Premiership Rugby has come to, and as a group of 12, 13 clubs, they've said these are the rules we're going to abide by. So in a way, you're picking up on something that I think is very true. This is a lot of inner bile that sort of this is being generated by other clubs because they agreed to it. It's a little bit like a solemn oath that you take with someone. It kind of means more than law in a funny sort of way because you're all doing it and you're supposed to be doing it. The flip side is that Saracens or Saracens fans will say that, you know, that they've been caught, that everyone is kind of up to it. Everyone is looking for loopholes and they're the ones that have been stung. But of course the opposition fans say, no, you've won trophies. This is the other thing. It's because they've been successful and so successful. You know, European and Premiership title after Premiership title. You know, this is the problem and this is what they've got. And in a way, I kind of not agree with you, but I see where you're coming from. That yes, to a certain extent, this is a businessman trying to actually look after welfare and the long-term welfare of some of his most prized assets. The problem is that it was Nigel, he is their employer. So if he's doing it, then it kind of looks like an employee perk. And if it's an employee perk, then it should be in the salary cap. And if it had been anyone else, if Nigel Ray had been able to get someone unconnected to Saracens to do what he has done to the Premiership players, we would not be talking about this. The fact of the matter is, it's the relationship between Nigel Ray, who basically owns Saracens, and the players. So he's the one who pays them, and he's also the one enabling them to make money. Now, if you see someone enabling other people to make money, is that them kind of financially doping the situation? Lots of people would say that it is. Saracens, of course, say that it's not.
Yeah, indeed. Well put. Sam, appreciate you coming on.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Cheers, Sam.
Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator and journalist, giving his thoughts on Dylan Hartley, who is retiring, and this whole Saracen thing, which does rumble on, doesn't it?
We like Sam. Friend of the show, Sam. I think he's hit the nail on the head there, which is it depends on which side of the fence you fall. Now, if I was an Exeter player, or frankly, if I was probably involved in rugby, I dare say I would have the same opinion as a lot of these players that we're seeing come out. We saw James Haskell, for example, saying that he thought the whole legacy of rugby, reputation of rugby is on the line. Danny Kerr today on the back of the Times saying that he thinks Sarri should be bumped down to lower league for 3 years. I think if I was them, I'd probably have their opinion, but I'm not, and I'm very much outside the situation. And for me, I come down on the business perspective of this, which is that I think that Nigel Ray's just done them. He's just done the other clubs by being slightly more intellectual about the whole thing, perhaps, and finding a little way around. Well, it's not even around the rules, is it? It's just he clearly was not under the impression that he was doing anything wrong. And yeah, look, I think that Sarri's been quite unfairly treated here, personally. But I think that's probably an unpopular opinion in the rugby circles.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, there's bits and pieces that have happened. It does feel different in football, and I don't know why that is exactly, but it does feel that little bit different in football. And I guess the fact that these clubs, they've got certain caps in place, but it does feel, certainly like with City, some of the stories we hear when we touched on the sponsorship, some of the issues they've had when effectively creating sponsorships and this and that. Now, people kind of don't look kindly upon it, but it doesn't seem to have had the backlash that this has, and this has been that much more serious. 35-point deduction is a serious points deduction. Look, we're going to be talking about this more, no doubt. This will continue to rumble on. We're going to be talking Wolves next.
Love sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. leakage. Urine leakage, urine leakage.
Tenna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads. Discreet. Masculine.
Urine.
Secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
Urine.
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Stop paying too much for your energy bills. Brian saved money on his at a spokesmansaid.com. Can you?
I'm Brian from Swaddling Coat, South Derbyshire, and I saved about £400 on my energy bill with a Spokesman Said. The iSpokesman Said website was very easy to use, and the money I saved I put towards a holiday.
Compare home energy quotes from the UK's biggest suppliers in just a matter of minutes with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. We're going to be talking Wolves shortly. Of course, a good win last night, beating Bratislava 1-0 at Molineux. A good win for Manchester United, 3-0 in their game. Celtic and Rangers as well. It's good times at the moment, actually, Scottish football, having those two fighting it out against each other again. Rangers, which we haven't touched on too much, but I want to, beating Porto 2-0, which... again, is a huge result. We're actually seeing now that... is that because Rangers and Celtic have now got that rivalry between them once again, do you think?
I think it spurs it forward, doesn't it? I think it drags standards up. I think it's the same argument that with Liverpool and City at the level that they are now, has that elevated Leicester, for example? Has that elevated just loads of the teams, basically? So unfortunately, not Manchester United. But I think it has. And this is where we are in Scottish football. It's good to see... It's good to see competition right back at it, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is indeed. And just on the Celtic one, just want to give Fraser Forster a quick shout-out because he's a goalkeeper who struggled massively at Southampton, was in the England squad not so long ago, then all of a sudden, forgotten man. He was brilliant again last night. They absolutely love him up there.
Celtic
and once again,
have got this. Sorry to interrupt, but I've just done it, so screw
please
you.
feel free. You
Yeah. With the Celtic thing, I think we spoke a bit about yesterday about how your mentality in a tournament can be dictated on your historical success. So, like Liverpool, even when they had teams that I think every Liverpool player would have admitted weren't necessarily the best Liverpool side, did disproportionately well in Europe. Whereas a Man City, frankly, until very recently, and even recently, you could say, have maybe underperformed given their actual talent on the pitch and the calibre of their manager and their squad. And that, for me, is because if Liverpool have had such historic success in the tournament, it's like a psychological switch. Celtic regularly, do you remember they beat Barcelona last year? Celtic, at least, it seems once a season, maybe once every 2 seasons, will have a really shock result in Europe.
I believe, actually, that Barcelona, I think it's 7 years ago today or 7 years ago yesterday. So there you go.
Ross Stewart cried.
There
I remember
you
that.
go. We're going to be talking Wolves. We've got Jordan Russell, Wolves fancast, on the line, of course. A good win for Wolves, a last-minute winner against Bratislava. Morning, Jordan.
Morning.
Morning. How did they look last night? Obviously saw the finish, great goal. Obviously had the injury before then. 12 minutes of injury time was added because it was quite a serious injury, it looked like. Also, I want to talk about the Bratislava Flans because they took over the city before the game, I believe. Let's touch on the game first and foremost. Positive performance from Wolves?
Yeah, and I think that the 1-0 scoreline sort of doesn't really reflect how the game went. I think that actually we put in a real good performance last night. We controlled most, if not all, the 90 minutes of the game, if I'm honest with you. Their keeper kept them in it. Good penalty save, made a couple of other fantastic saves, maybe 3 or 4 as well. So it got a bit edgy at the end when we were trying to push for that goal to get the 3 points. But all in all, it was well and truly deserved, I think.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Who were the standout performers for you? Where was that game won?
I think Traoré obviously had a good game. He impacted it. Every time he gets the ball, he puts the defence
on the back foot, really, pushed him back 5-10 yards. They're too scared to know what he's doing, and I think it's largely because I'm not even sure if he knows what he's doing half the time as well. So I think he does install that bit of fear with you. I mean, a few notes of a few of the others. Max Kilman, who's a young lad, he came in yesterday at centre half, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Then Donker also as well, playing at centre half. Large parts of the game we were very much in control of it, but any defensive duties they needed to do, they were more than capable of the task.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Bratislava fans, because I believe something happened in the city before the game, so they took over the city.
Yeah, and I think it's, there's cheap flights over from Bratislava to Birmingham. Likewise, the Wolves fans had it a few weeks ago, the ones that did make it over there. So we were expecting quite a few of their fans to come over, and I think they probably brought around about 2,000 or so in the end. Yeah, they did take over the city. I'm not sure it was anything near as bad as what's been reported. If I'm being honest with you, a lot of it was all in good jest. In the stadium itself, I think that there was a few things that have been, said that there was a few racist remarks still by fans who were near the Bratislava fans. So, but all in all, I think they brought a large following. They were loud for the game, and they got behind the team. In all fairness. Yeah,
look, I think the way that Wolves have played in the Premier League now for a period of years has warranted European football, and I like the fact that they've gone and approached it with the same kind of not cavalier approach at all, because they're very well disciplined, but positive approach anyway. That they've frankly gone at a lot of the top 6 teams recently. Despite all that, can we have a chat about Nuno Espirito Santo's beard, please? Because I don't think this has become enough of a cult thing. We had Fellaini, right? That really kicked on. In other sports, we've had things Monty Panesar, that became a cult following. Why the heck aren't we all walking around with Nuno Espirito Santo's beard on?
I'll be honest with you, I think it's because half the population of Wolverhampton can't grow a beard like that. otherwise, I think they would. It's a real strong beard, to be honest with you.
It is properly
when he came
strong.
over a couple of years ago, he was, it was nice and dark, a nice dark, fully fledged beard, and now it's. He's starting to get a few greys, and if he's not careful, he'll get mistaken for Santa Claus, I think.
Well, I've heard rumours there's a product called Just for Men, which can dye the beard black.
Strong rumours, actually.
Strong rumours. Not that I've got any knowledge about this product at all. Big fixture at the weekend. Of course, Aston Villa at home. Massive fixture, in fact, for Wolves. How do you see that one playing out?
I think it very much depends on which Aston Villa turn up. And I mean that by the fact of play their usual style of football against us. I think that our 11, if you match both 11s up against each other, I think Wolves are a stronger team. So I think that if they play football against us, I think it'll play into our hands. I think we'll quite easily pick them off. You've seen, we've obviously drawn a lot of games this season, Wolves, and the one thing we probably do lack is that number 10, a bit of creative spark when we've got teams who are sitting off us a little bit. So again, that could come and try and make it a bit difficult for us. But I do think if they go toe-to-toe with us, I don't think we'll have any problems.
Fantastic. Well, look, good luck for that game, Jordan. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Jordan Russell, Wolves Fancast on the line, talking about their big win last night. Of course, it leaves them in a great position in the Europa League table they're in. They're on 9 points with third place on 4 points. So they're looking good for making their way through to the knockout stages.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see how far Wolves can go in this, actually.
Well, it's interesting. All of our British teams are doing really well in the Europa League. Rangers as well. Rangers are in a tough group. Feyenoord, of course, in their group as well. So, Rangers, Celtic, if they can all get out of the group, Celtic now who have qualified, it's fantastic, really.
Yeah, massively. They just look better with Neil Lennon in the dugout there.
Is that what it is?
It's just, you know what it is? That is Celtic for me, that. Scott Brown scything people down in the centre circle, winding them up to oblivion. Looks like he plays with an ankle tag as an accessory. And then you've got Neil Lennon in the dugout there, who just looks like the type of person that, you all know this, where you just walk past them on a night out and you say absolutely nothing. And they just turn around and go, "What? What did you just say? Hey, come on, say it to my face." And you go, "No, I didn't say anything, mate." So you go, "Yes, you did. I saw you." No, I really didn't say that. Then, the rest ensues.
Indeed. We're going to go back to this Saracen story shortly. We're going to dissect some of the Rugby Union Weekly podcast next.
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did, with a little help from a spokesmansaid.com. getting real people, real savings.
I'm Chris from Leicestershire, a truck driver. I went on a spokesman set, which was very straightforward and easy to use for an old git like myself, and saved over £300 on my car insurance.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here until 10 a.m. Now, this Saracen story does continue to rumble on, Mr. Christys. It's something that I guess we've got so many different opinions on it. I know that we're going to play a podcast very shortly which touches on it and goes into a bit more detail, give our thoughts on it. I get the impression we're of a similar mindset here, and I get the impression that everyone we spoke to, and this isn't on purpose, that everyone we seem to have spoke to has reiterated a similar point, because there are a lot of people that are giving the complete... Well, the opposite thought to what we're giving.
Yeah, the only person who didn't have our view. So, right, look, so let's take it back from the very beginning. Saracens fined 5.3 million quid and docked 35 points for breaching salary caps in 3 seasons. During these 3 seasons, they won 2 championships and 2 European championships as well. Remarkably successful. The owner, Nigel Ray, worth about 315 million quid, made his money early doors by investing quite early on anyway in Domino's Pizza, of course now a massive entity. He was paying players and paying them right up to the salary cap of around 7 million quid. But then a lot of the players as well, so Owen Farrell, Maro Itoje, the Vunipola brothers and Wigglesworth as well, it's easy for me to say, were also in investment schemes with Nigel Ray. This was seen as either an additional bit of money on the side or a legitimate business that would keep the players on board and set them up for later life. Now, depending on which way you look at that. So they got found out. And yeah, and a hefty punishment. Other clubs are now piling on board relentlessly. We've had Exeter get on board, Harlequins, and individuals as well. James Haskell and now Danny Kerr, saying that for as far as he's concerned, they should maybe be relegated for 3 seasons. The amount of time that they were essentially covering up or just not necessarily being as truthful as they could have been about what they were doing. So he was speaking on the Rugby Union Weekly podcast on the BBC, and he had some quite strong things to say.
Yeah, indeed. So this is Chris Jones, Danny Kerr, Igor Monya, Chris Ashton on the Rugby Union Weekly podcast covering the Saracen story.
This news all came flooding in that Saracens are having the book thrown at them over salary cap breaches, a total fine of £5,360,272, and of course the important 31 pence, and a total deduction of 35 league points. So we're going to chew over now one of the biggest stories in English rugby history. First with Alistair Eakin, a good friend of ours at the BBC, a man who's had his teeth in many of these big stories over the years, and now a famed commentator with BT Sport. Al, are you there? And how are you?
I'm here, and I'm probably rather better rested than you, Jonesy. You should have known better, really. You thought you were going to get time off, and you walked into the biggest storm, the biggest scandal to hit club rugby since Bloodgate, and you've had how many hours sleep in the last
To be honest, no, I did get off 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. last night, was completely off, so I can't complain too much. It's all the fun and games of covering the sport at the moment. Bigger than Bloodgate. I mean, we're going to get stuck into this over the next 30, 40 minutes or so. But this is a serious... when you look at where Saracens have been, what they've achieved, 8 domestic titles in a decade, just under a decade. The fact they provided the spine of the England team that got to the Rugby World Cup final. I mean, this is as big as it gets in terms of a rugby union story.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it probably is bigger and more significant than Bloodgate. Bloodgate, in a way, was relatively easy to tidy up. It didn't feel that way at the time. But I mean, once everybody had established exactly what had happened, that practice was outlawed. Everybody was on the lookout for it. And that was the end of that. This, I think, could have monumental ramifications. I mean, there are so many questions that flood off the back of this ruling, not least are Saracens, indeed were Saracens, the only clubs to have been doing things that they shouldn't. Who knows just at the moment, but I suspect that we will get into that a little bit later, and they will be certainly hunting those out, you would think, at this point, having made such a big statement with this punishment. It's the harshest punishment that they could have meted out. And this is monumental for that club, but also for the league as a whole and for rugby in the Northern Hemisphere, because, when we talk ramifications, wage structures and the spiralling costs of paying players, that might be about to come to a halt potentially.
Yeah, so when we were in Japan, we did a fair few of these bonus Rugby Union Weekly podcasts. Danny Kerr wasn't always happy that he was excluded from the odd one. But Danny, we weren't going to let you miss out here. I can hear you marking out your long run like Bob Willis from Cobham.
Hey guys, yeah, what a story to break. I think it's probably been the worst kept secret in rugby for a lot of years. But obviously, there's some findings that have finally come out, and obviously it's huge news, as you guys have said. I think from a player's perspective, what exactly have they been fined for? What is it? What are the sanctions that they've been caught out with?
Look, the salary cap regulations are 57 pages long. And when you look at the Premiership Rugby statement, they're talking about the club exceeding the ceiling for payments to senior players. And when they mean senior players, they mean players in the senior squad, i.e. not academy players. It also refers to the past 3 seasons, because if we go back to 2015, there was that issue where Saracens and another club came to, quote, confidential agreements over, quote, salary cap issues. And there was very much a feeling, wasn't there, guys, that things were brushed under the carpet there. So I wonder whether that has contributed to them really having the hammer brought down on them now. Basically, a lot of this revolves around, if not all of it revolves around, these co-investments that Nigel Ray, the Saracens owner, has with certain Saracens players. Now, Ray insists these investments where he's in business with these players are not salaries, they're investments, and they're preparing players for life after rugby. He also said in the statement he personally put out that, quote, the panel acknowledged we never deliberately sought to mislead anyone or breach the cap. But that seems completely at odds with what has happened, what this panel have decided. Independent panel, chaired by a Right Honourable Lord. It has a QC on it and another legal figure in Jeremy Summers. So these are big-hitting legal operators. Premiership Rugby investigated for 9 months, then handed over to this panel. And they clearly aren't buying what Nigel Ray is saying, because if it was all above board and it was an investment and it wasn't separate to the salary, then that wouldn't be too big a deal. It's just the fact that they haven't disclosed them and they feel that Saracens have been manipulating the cap.
I mean, it touched on there the fact that it was an independent panel that then looked into this, because I don't know, it doesn't change my mindset at all. And I appreciate that everyone's got their own opinions on this. I guess because I'm coming from a football background, the thought of there actually being a salary cap in the way there is, it's so different to football. So I don't fully understand this. I'm going to say that from the off, because I don't fully understand how you can limit the potential earning of someone. Like, I get the financial fair play in football. That makes sense to me in the long-term future of clubs. And we've seen this fall down on a couple of occasions. So I understand this. I don't fully understand how this can be an issue. If you're creating a legitimate business with another top player, with a top player that can be successful, whether that's an investment business, whether it's going into property, whether it's utilising the fact they've got leverage because of who they are, that makes sense. I go back to my point before. Is it simply they haven't disclosed it to the league? They haven't disclosed the fact.
But it's because it depends which way you come down on this. If these investment firms, which Farrell, Toje, the Vunipolas brothers were part of, if they were just front sham businesses, which, basically it's a second salary, and, whatever, once every however many months, Nigel Ray drops in a nice dividend into that particular pot and the players reap the benefit, and there's no real actual business taking place there, then you can look at it and go, yeah, all right, fair enough, it probably is dodgy, really. Yeah. But we don't know that at the minute. We're not being told that at the minute. You would have thought that after various investigations had taken place, we would have been told that. The fact is that Saracens clearly feel, at least the line is, that they didn't have to disclose this because these are just legitimate outside business interests.
And that's the bit. And look, they made the point they're trying to circumnavigate the rules and they're trying to find a way. Okay, fine.
They try and circumnavigate the rules every day, mate.
I don't get, because look, I've been involved in things like this myself. Where, do you know what it is? So one of my strategies away from this world is a case of, if you find someone that you know has got potential for something, then the idea that you would invest in them makes sense. Yeah. So similarly, you go back to this. Look, I get it that you can look at this and be, it's just a way of paying them extra money. Okay, but at the same time, actually, why can't these businesses be successful? I'm sure he's going into these not just saying, look, we'll set this up. Do you know what? There's going to be nothing in this business other than it paying you an additional salary. Yeah. No, I believe, or I'd like to believe, and this is where I guess we'll find out when it all comes out, is that these will be, whether it be, look, do you know, a simple example. If Nigel Ray says, I'm going to put X amount into this business, me and you, and we're going to go into property. Brilliant.
Yeah, good. You know what will have happened, right? The England lads will have gone on duty, and they'll have been with all their England teammates there, and the Saracens boys will have a slightly nicer car or something like that. They'll be talking about buying a slightly bigger house or going on a slightly nicer holiday, and some England lads will go, boys, what's going on here? And they'll just told them. I reckon this is where it's come from. That one of the England players will have just said, like, oh yeah, no, an investment thing, isn't it great? And then some of the other players have gone back to their clubs and gone, excuse me, do you mind if we do this? And they've gone, we can't afford to do this, right? And so actually we're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. What has happened here? And Danny Kerr, and I know we're going to keep going into this throughout the show, but Danny Kerr, they're talking about the fact that, how many players have people work their backsides off, and that it's enough. Yeah, Saracens players still work their backsides off, and they're well remunerated for it. For me, it is a case of really bad sour grapes. That Nigel Ray's a bloke there who's looked at the rules, has found a way that he can operate in a way that he believes is right and just, and he's done it, and he's got the money to do so, and they've won things. Sorry, Rich, just lastly, this was an agreement entered into by all the Premier League clubs, so all the Premiership clubs, so that they would stick to a particular salary cap. Yeah. Now, first and foremost, the only teams that would need to do that are the ones that can't afford to go above that salary cap, and Saracens are not one of those. Secondly, that is not a legally binding agreement. Thirdly, I can't think of a single moment throughout history or international relations where someone has given a written assurance that they wouldn't do something and then gone and done it. Can you?
Let's hear from Danny Cares. Let's hear some of the comments from the podcast covered on the back page of the Times.
We managed to do it in 2012, and we did it fair and square, in the cap, no cheating. For me, it's the highlight of my career. One of the greatest moments of my life was lifting that trophy, along with getting married and the birth of my son. That's how much it means to me. And I just feel so sorry for all those other clubs, all those other players, backroom staff, coaches. People lose their jobs because they're not performing well enough, because everyone's saying, why aren't we as good as Saracens? And if it comes out that that's happening because they're cheating, well, it's not just the here and now. It affects people's lives. It affects people's families. And that's why I think so many players have been so annoyed over the years that it has been swept under the carpet. As you said, there was another one previously that got brushed aside.
They're not better players because they're getting paid more. It's not like, all of a sudden now, so-and-so's got an extra million in the bank account and he is suddenly the best player in the world.
I just don't get this. I feel so sorry. I don't get this. I just don't get how. You mentioned it before. Surely then, obviously, players can get paid more in France. Now, I go back to being a footballer and the idea that you can earn what you can earn, and clubs have a certain salary cap, but it's based on their income. And of course, the bigger the league gets, like we've seen with the Premier League, the Premier League's got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. How's rugby going to get bigger if they put in these these things in
It's
place.
Not. It's not, and the clubs don't want it to. This is the thing. Exeter, Harlequins and all that, they don't want it to. Sale, because they can't afford for it to. They can't afford it. The owners have got a choice. You either fall behind Saracens, who can afford to do it, and have got a great setup there, and have got, they're ahead of the game in that respect. If these other clubs could do what Saracens are doing, they would be doing it, but they can't. They're jealous, and this is what's happening.
So here's one for you then. So if Nigel Ray, because obviously I guess he's done these businesses as, say, a 50-50 partnership. So it'll be Owen Farrell and Nigel Ray. If you go on Company's House, my assumption is that they will own the businesses 50% each. What if now Nigel Ray then said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get my friend Johnny down the road. Johnny, you do the bit. I'll give Johnny the money.
Well,
okay?
he could have done that, to be fair. I actually think he probably should have done that.
Well, is it as simple as that? There's no difference. If he does it via somebody...
He should have done that. If he wants... Because seriously, because then there's nothing.
Yeah.
Really. Then there's really nothing. I mean, I don't know how you would even go. I'm surprised they've even managed to come down on them in the way they have this time, let alone if you've got a third party to go and be involved as well. Look, I know it feels like we're going...
Here's a true story, actually. When I was at Watford, one of the previous chairmen of Watford, I actually went and met privately because I had an idea that I wanted to promote to him to get an investment. And he was interested. It didn't happen with him. I ended up getting the investment from somebody else. But I went to the owner. That would have been the same situation as this. I could have been in business with the Watford owner while I was playing for Watford. No one would have cared.
Look, for me, and the thing is that's quite telling is, I know it's all well and good us sitting here and kind of taking the business aspects of it, but it's not just the business aspects of it. It's the quality of rugby in this country. And, I think, personally, that you're going to end up... It would be a real shame if you ended up with, a serious rugby talent just going and playing for a club in France because he recognises that maybe he's not a shoo-in for Eddie Jones's next World Cup squad in 4 years' time. So he might have 4 big years left at the top. So he goes and plays for a French club to earn a shed ton more cash and doesn't represent his country. That's damaging for England. It's also damaging for the Premiership. There's loads of knock-on effects to this salary cap thing, and personally, I just think it's an outdated model.
Well, that's the point for me, is that I appreciate you want to try and make things fair, okay, by keeping everybody on the same, then in theory...
Do you? Sorry, I don't believe in fairness.
Well, that's the point, because life isn't fair.
No.
That's kind of what it comes back to.
not.
You could look at football and you could say, oh, well, Man City win it every year, Liverpool win it every year because they got all the money. Fine. Do you know what? If you're lucky enough that they've had those investments and, okay, different subjects we're not going to talk about now, but life isn't fair. That's the way that it is. Surely, if you want to build rugby and make it the kind of game that might rival football, then it needs to grow.
For a bunch of really big lads with cauliflower ears and broken noses and snap fingers and necks the size of watermelons, they aren't half behaving like crybabies, are they?
There you go. 3 minutes to wait.
This is Love Sport.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Search Macmillan Money Worries.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Big hour coming up. Paul Robinson, former Watford defender, teammate of mine, of course, also played for West Brom, Birmingham, several others. He's going to be talking about the Watford-Norwich game, or Norwich-Watford game, which takes place tonight. We'll also be previewing Hull City, West Brom, Birmingham, Fulham as well. We've also got Nick Masheter, Midlands football writer at the Press Association, talking about the England squad. Of course, it was announced yesterday. James Maddison is in, Grealish isn't. We'll get his thoughts on that. We'll also go into a bit more detail on the Saracen story, which is still dominating many of the back pages. So do stay with us. As always, you can get in touch, 0208 70 20 558 on WhatsApp. You can call us on that number as well, at Love Sport Radio on the socials, or like many of you do, tune in on YouTube.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 8. 5 severe flood warnings, which carry a risk to life, have been triggered in South Yorkshire after torrential rain forced people to leave their homes. The heavy rains causing travel disruptions. Some roads and railway lines have been closed. Luke Turner works at Meadow Hall Shopping Centre near Sheffield, where hundreds of people were stranded overnight.
For safety reasons, the police keeping us inside Meadow Hall. Everyone's been helpful. There's drinks knocking around, coats, covers. Everyone's been helpful, keeping us warm. It's quite a good atmosphere, but, you know, it's just a bad situation.
The SNP launched their election campaign today with a pledge to protect the NHS from trade deals with foreign nations. Nicola Sturgeon's party says they want to stop the health service being used as a bargaining chip. SNP MEP Alan Smith says Scottish independence and campaigning to remain are also on the party's agenda.
We're going to reach out across the rest of the UK to stop Brexit because that's in the interest of the NHS and indeed all other public services and our economy. But we're going to do what's best to Scotland, and we believe that the people of Scotland should be in charge of our own future, not Boris Johnson or Donald Trump.
A New Zealand court has heard that the man accused of strangling British backpacker Grace Mullane admitted trying to clean blood from his hotel room floor. The 27-year-old defendant, who denies her murder, told police he used cleaning products to try to remove the blood. Experts are warning that the colder months bring a heightened chance of measles spreading through coughs and colds. The UK lost its measles-free status in August, and so far this year there have been 1,500 suspected cases. A study's found 3/4 of asylum seekers in the UK aren't getting an initial decision for over 6 months. In 2014, a fifth were waiting that length of time. In the Europa League, both Manchester United and Celtic have progressed to the last 32. United beat Partizan Belgrade 3-0 and Celtic secured a 2-1 win over Lazio. Meanwhile, Rangers and Wolves both won their matches and remain on track for a place in the knockout stages. That's the latest. I'm Rosa McRae.
This is Love Sport.
Arla Cravendale. It's not milk. It's fresh milk, filtered for purity. Arla Cravendale's legal department would like to point out that Arla Cravendale is milk, and as such is not subject to terms and conditions, but most certainly subject to a filtering process, which makes it for legal purposes undeniably, deliciously pure fresh milk that's been filtered for purity.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here until 10. Let's touch on those headlines this morning. Big win for Manchester United last night. They won 3-0 against Partizan Belgrade to move into the last 32 of the Europa League. Raul Jimenez scores in injury time as Wolves beat Bratislava and moves closer to the knockout stages. Maddison returns to England. No place in the squad for Grealish. Johnny Bairstow returns for the must-win T20 International. In fact, England posted a score of 2-4-2. Fantastic score. New Zealand chasing that as we speak. Former England captain and Saints hooker Dylan Hartley retires at the age of 33. Arsene Wenger is out of the running to become the Bayern Munich manager. And of course, Norwich and Watford meet tonight. 6-pointer, plenty of games this weekend we're going to touch on. Oh, and Celtic beat Lazio 2-1 last night and Rangers beat Porto 2-0. Fantastic for our British clubs.
Exactly. OK, so British athletics.
Yeah.
Yeah? It's a mess, isn't it, mate?
Go on, what's the latest? Let me guess. Salazar?
Oh, you guessed it. Doesn't Salazar sound like a kind of evil magician? Doesn't it? Like you can see in Harry Potter, like there's Voldemort. You know, you've got a couple of these people like Malfoy and then Salazar! Oh, no! But anyway.
I do worry that, because you know when certain things happen, like certain people do really bad things and that can impact a name. Like children won't be called that anymore. Like I can't imagine children being called Salazar moving forward.
Well, I mean, that's out the window, isn't it now?
It's such a popular
And
name.
that's the real shame here. You know, we talk a lot about the athletics community being systematically lied to, the paying public being essentially greeted by a procession of cheats, and the very fabric of everything that we held dear when it came to competitive athletic-based sport being shattered before our very eyes. But actually now, no one can call their kid Salazar.
Or Alberto.
Or Alberto.
Oh, man.
Gosh. Anyway, so British athletics chiefs face more questions over their relationship with Alberto Salazar. So American Mary Kane has alleged abuse under the disgraced coach's wing. So the middle distance runner, who's 23, says that after joining Salazar's Nike Oregon project in 2013, she was publicly weight shamed, her periods ended, and she broke 5 bones. She says, I was emotionally and physically abused by a system designed by Alberto and endorsed by Nike. Now, UK Athletics head Neil Black quit last month in the wake of the Salazar's 4-year doping ban, and Mo Farah's longtime former coach Salazar was a UK Athletics consultant for 4 years until 2017. By the way, this ties in actually, unfortunately, very nicely with what is going on in cycling at the moment. It just seems like it's always going on in cycling, doesn't it? But this one is particularly bad. You may remember last week we were talking quite a lot about a bloke called Richard Freeman, who was undergoing questioning, really, by the General Medical Council in relation to supplying, or allegedly supplying anyway, things like Tester gel, which is testosterone gel.
Yeah.
To cyclists. Now, this is still ongoing, this whole thing, and it is going to be ongoing for quite a while. The latest on that, now check this out, mate. So, the latest on this is that he is apparently going to claim that he was bullied into to getting this stuff, okay? That he didn't want to, and that former coach Shane Sutton was quite a nefarious character. Then here we go, mate, and this is the real one for me. His legal team are claiming that some new evidence has come entirely out of the blue.
Right.
And that this will change the face of the case. We're yet to see what all this is.
Okay.
I mean, it smells awful. Absolutely shocking. Smells like kind of an open sewer, doesn't it, really? Anyway, so this is where we're up to. So, athletics and cycling, both in the doldrums, both relating to doping, both relating to drugs, both relating to British elements of that sport. And actually, do we now start looking at ourselves a bit and going, we are a small island with a proud history, as we know. I regularly sing Rule Britannia on this show, and I do it with pride. But is our relentless desire to still be that superpower and the projection of us as a superpower through sporting excellence, have we just been cheating the whole time?
Well, I don't know, it feels like a lot of our stories link into this, the idea of pushing boundaries and finding ways around rules or what have you. I just think when it comes to certain sports, I made this point before and I'll keep making the point, where if it's a sport that is like cycling, where effectively it's power, it's endurance, it's stamina. It's not really much skill involved, and I'm sure cyclists probably won't be happy with me.
I can't ride a bike, so I would say that there is a lot of skill.
I mean, you struggle to walk in a straight line, and
that's only on Saturday nights,
right?
Mate. Okay, and I'm really annoyed that you brought that up. Actually, okay, I haven't been drunk at work for days.
Certain coordination issues aside,
legally now I have to just say disclaimer: I've never been drunk at work. Thank you.
Okay. So, I think with a lot of these sports, when it is purely endurance, then of course, a lot of the things you can take will give you that much more endurance. I do wonder, I always put myself in the shoes of an athlete that's involved in one of these things, and you can see the rest of the field getting that far ahead of you, and you know, you might only be a split second away, and there is, or you believe, and also, I bet people that are involved in the sport, you know what it's like, if you're involved in an industry, and you know things that other people don't know, and you know things that really you can't say because it's not going to reflect well on you. I wonder whether a lot of these people know exactly what's going on, and they know of things that, say, the general public don't know, and it then can change their moral compass a little bit and make you think, actually, they're getting away with it. I can probably get away with it. If I do, it could change my life. I could end up making more money, being that bit more famous, etc., etc. Whatever your goals are, just by taking something you're probably going to get away with. I don't know, and it comes back to pushing boundaries. It seems like in every sport, people are trying to do it in so many different ways, some more serious than others, And with this, I know they're talking about retesting, aren't they? Mo Farah
Yes,
and
they are. Well, that's gonna
others
be
who were
interesting.
trained by Salazar, of course. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, look, it's not rocket science, is it? Alberto Salazar is a proven drugs cheat.
Yeah.
Now, his links to British athletics are absolutely monstrous.
Yeah.
Look, we don't know because it's important to say that Mo Farah has never failed a drugs test. Okay.
Yeah.
It is also important to say that I think all of his samples should be retested, and we will take that as whatever results come back.
Yes, indeed. You mentioned before, though, we are striving for excellence in all we do. England, Britain at the moment. Well, you look, we won the cricket. We got to the final in the rugby of the World Cup. We're in the semi-final of the football. Talk about cycling. We have a lot of cyclists year in, year out that are at the top of their sport. So we are succeeding, arguably more than we ever have done. So there's a lot of good things going on at the younger ages. Certainly the environment we're putting together. You know, we were talking yesterday about Tosic, out in Belgrade.
Yeah.
Out in Partizan Belgrade, who spoke about when he came to Man United, had never even seen a gym. You know, the environment that a lot of these have in other countries, they're never going to be able to compete with us because we've got this incredible environment. America have had it for years and years when it comes to athletics, although obviously this puts a bit of a dampener on that. But they've had these environments. I went to the IMG Academy in Florida. Anyone that knows what that is, this sporting, I don't even know how to describe it, but it is just a place where you've got every different sport going. You've got the best coaches from all around the world who are teaching young athletes how to maximise their craft. World-class tennis players coming out of there all the time. Now, we've got that nailed to an extent. It seems like the plans that have been put in place over the last 10 years are very, very good. And it comes back to that point. We're always looking for the next level. How do you find the next level? Arguably, there's only so much you can do with regular training. Is that when your moral compass moves?
Look, we had such great success with a procession of tremendous cyclists. It then emerged that there were various therapeutic use exemptions which were legally above board. Okay? It's now emerging, clearly, hence the conversation we're having, about various testosterone-based elements, right, which may or may not prove to be true. It's a concern. We had a golden era of athletics where Mo Farah was doing the Mobot, parading around London. Now it's emerging that Alberto Salazar is a rampant drugs cheat. He was involved with British athletics and even shared a flat with Mo Farah in the run-up to London 2012. Again, no indication that Mo Farah actually did anything wrong. Cricket World Cup, right? We had an opening bowler who was born and raised in Barbados. We've had Ben Stokes, who's born in New Zealand. We've had all these players throughout history, by the way. He's arguably our greatest ever batsman, Kevin Peterson. He's South African. I love the guy, but he's South African.
Greg Rosetsky.
Greg Rosetsky, lest we forget. Greg Rosetsky. Andy Murray's Scottish, you know. You look at it now and go, hang on a minute, how good are we? Look at the rugby. We get people like the Vunipola brothers. Now, don't get me wrong, actually that's a slightly different kettle of fish.
And interesting with Andy Murray, he had his upbringing in America largely in terms of, might have been at the IMG, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a lot of his training there.
Yeah, this is it. Now, we have a habit in this country of, in our desperate pursuit for victory, of hoovering up foreign talent, bending rules to do so. In the case of Jofra Archer, we reduced the amount of time that you needed to be resident in this country to represent this country. We've got a history of getting into bed with various nefarious characters in order to win things. It does raise questions, and I hate saying this, right? Because I love this country, and I love it when we win at sporting games, and I think we do punch well above our weight. But actually, have we been fiddling it a little bit?
Interesting point. What do you guys think? As ever, 0208 70 20 558. We are on the socials at Love Sport Radio, and see many of you are tuned in on YouTube. You can leave comments there as well. What else is going on the back pages, Mr. Christys? Because we are going to be talking shortly to Paul Robinson, former Watford defender.
Yeah.
Of course, Norwich taking on Watford this evening.
I want to talk about, well, there's a fair few bits and bobs going on, but I think just quickly about how Pep Guardiola has turned Raheem Sterling into a world-beating fox in the box. So, Sterling is basically unstoppable at the minute. There were rumours that I think now we agree were unfounded that Real Madrid were going to offer Gareth Bale plus 70 million for him. So that's not happening. So 7 seasons in a row, Raheem Sterling has scored 10 or more goals in all competitions. Of all the current Premier League players, only his teammate Sergio Aguero can match that. Champions League goals, he scored 18 in 44 appearances. That's the 5th most by any English player, so he's on for that record. And he's only 24 years old, of course. And he's doing fantastically well. He averages 2.26 games per goal for club and country. since Pep Guardiola took over. And there's just a comparison now, just to see how Pep has improved him.
Okay.
So when he was at Liverpool, games per goal, we said, well, it was this 2011 season. He played 3 games, no goals. The next season, 36 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. 13-14, 38 games, 10 goals, 6 assists. And then in 14-15, 52 games, 11 goals, 9 assists. That matches his worst ever season at City. So then he goes all the way up and he culminates in where we are, where we were last season anyway. 51 games, 25 goals, 15 assists, and it's the fact now that he's scoring more different types of goals, and even a lot of them actually are coming from the kind of 6-yard box as well.
Well, he's becoming a more complete player. We talk a lot about that goal he seems to score on the far post, whereas positioning, his sense of danger and where to be. They talk about the POMO. Have you heard that? The
position of maximum opportunity.
Yeah, pretty much. So he always finds himself there. He's very clever. The amount of times that he does get himself into that position and scores that easy tapping. But you're right, he is scoring all sorts of different goals. His movement is fantastic. He's actually so strong as well. That's something that gets underreported, I feel, is that he is so strong and he's tough to wrestle off the ball. Of course, his touch control. The key for me, and you think of where the criticism came in the World Cup, was that classic cliche that I really hate. Andy Cole used to get this a lot, or Andrew Cole used to get this a lot, which was...
Sorry, can we just talk about that for a second? What is it now?
Because I think it's Andrew.
Yeah, but it wasn't, was it?
No, it was Andy Cole.
It was Andy Cole.
Yeah.
And now it's Andrew Cole.
Had a really nice ring to it.
The artist formerly known as Andy Cole.
Yeah.
Actually, Andy Cole's just turned himself into a symbol.
Yeah. Well, he used to have the classic cliche of, he's good when it's reactive, but he struggles when he's got time to score. And I don't know if that was
I thought that was a bit of a lazy stereotype, to be honest with you, from the kind of back in the day Andy Gray and that lot going, oh, no, if he has to think about it, he can't do it. I think we know why you're saying that, don't we?
Sterling had that a bit. I'd argue Sterling had that quote a few times, and it bugged me because I didn't think it was necessarily the case. I think he was nervous playing for England in the last World Cup because at the time the media was pretty negative towards him. That shifted. He looks like he's playing with so much confidence now, and I don't see that confidence going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, right? Because with Andy Cole, I thought it was unfair. With Raheem Sterling, I do just legitimately think he's got a lot better at finishing. Like he just has. He did used to miss some sitters.
Yeah.
He did used to look very nervous one-on-one. He'd do all of the hard work getting there. And I don't know why that was. I'm not trying to say, it's because I'm not going to be... Now Patrick goes full Andy Gray. If he's got time to think about it, no, but it was a case, very legitimately, with Raheem Sterling, where even if it was reactive, if he was just presented with a situation where he should score, he just wouldn't. Whereas now, that's completely changed.
Do you know what I think we should do? We should have a section of the show where we just do Patrick Christys impressions. Just for a section. We've obviously got Steve Bruce. We've got an Andy Gray.
Okay.
We're not allowed to do, you say German anymore?
No. Could I do the current Indian president?
Go on. Oh, no.
Oh,
no. Not allowed to do that one, no. So the certain
what
ones...
about Xi Jinping?
Okay, let's leave it there. 17 minutes past 8.
Love sport.
When looking for the best possible deal for his car insurance, Jim went on a spokesmansaid.com and saved hundreds.
I'm Jim. I'm a radio presenter based in Glasgow. I couldn't believe how expensive the car insurance for our Citroen C4 Picasso was going to be from my existing insurer. I went on a Spokesman Said and saved an incredible £600. Just amazing.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F, face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Now, we mentioned big game tonight, 6-pointer, arguably. Norwich taking on Watford. Who better to go through it than Paul Robinson, former Watford defender, Watford legend. Morning, Robbo.
Good morning.
Morning. Big game this for Watford, goes without saying. 11 games without a win, only 5 points on the board. They have improved slightly of late. Of course, went down to Chelsea last time out, but did draw the 3 previously. Going to Norwich, who are in dire form at the moment, obviously a lot of injuries. Watford have to pick up 3 points here.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably a game that Watford will look at and feel that they can get 3, but they will have to perform because Norwich on their day can be a very exciting team. And when you've got someone like Pukki up front, you've got to be on your toes. And with Watford's defending at the moment, it's a real threat for them.
Well, it is. I watched the game actually at the weekend. I don't know if you saw it against Chelsea. And to be honest, although it was 2-1 and Ben Foster nearly gets an equaliser in the last minute, but it could have been 5 or 6 to Chelsea before that. They utterly dominated Watford. Can you see enough in this Watford squad as it is to make you believe they can get out of trouble?
You'd like to think so, but you do worry. You do worry about the mentality of some of the players that are at the club at the moment and the amount of numbers that they have as well. I mean, like you say there, when you're watching the game against Chelsea, it was quite worrying. It was just the ease. It was the passiveness for me, was the players not wanting to contact any of the Chelsea players. And that is, when you're watching that, for me, yeah, it's a big worry.
Yeah, and obviously a lot made of Troy Deeney not being or being injured recently, and Quique Sanchez-Flores has touched on Troy Deeney may well return for this one potentially. Is that what they're missing? Is it as simple as that if they had a number 9? I know it hasn't really happened for Andre Gray in recent weeks, and I know the Watford fans get on his back a little bit. Is it someone like a Troy Deeney returning that might just give them that impetus to then move forward?
Yeah, he's a leader. He's over the years now for Watford, he's proved that. He's the driving force in the team. He's the one who he's always on them if the standards are below par. And like you say, if he plays today, yes, you might not get a lot out of him, maybe 60 minutes, but he'll make the difference because of his leadership qualities that he brings to the football pitch and to the rest of the players.
Indeed. And obviously, January just round the corner. For a start, Quique Sanchez-Flores, I'd be interested to know your thoughts on how he's done since returning. I know he hasn't picked up a victory in the league yet, but of course, things have improved slightly, I guess. But knowing Watford as we do, they do like to chop and change from time to time. Is it a case of trying to get themselves a little bit closer to safety come January and then maybe going big in January? I guess the last thing Watford would want after taking so long and so hard to get to the Premier League to give up that right pretty comfortably.
Yeah, but you also, then your worry is that they're so far adrift at the moment and they're not picking up points, is that they go and waste money on more players to then have the situation of getting relegated into the Championship, and then you're obviously then concerned about the wage bill, the players. Do they leave then, or do they stay around and be funny? That's the worry for me, because as you know, Rich, we went through them times as young lads growing up at the club where we had to we seen the worst times of it, and you're hoping it doesn't go back to that. So for me, I think they've got to be a little bit cautious with the players that they attract. The players that they need to get in are ones that will want to come and play for Watford, and not just because of the money. So he's got to be very careful. I think he's got to be very careful. And like you said there, it was a strange decision to see him come back, considering they sacked him 2 years ago. It's puzzling about the thoughts and the thinking of some of these owners and what they think about that.
Well, I want to touch on that because, I mean, it's, like I say, a very different club to the club that we were both at many years ago. But how do you see it in terms of, it used to be built very much, we go back, I say the glory days, but Graham Taylor, Elton John, it was all built on the academy and the amount of players that came through, me and you being examples of that. That seems to have changed somewhat. I don't know how much time or how much effort they put into their academy, their 23s. Obviously, the business model has changed, I guess, with the way in which they're operating. Now, we can't knock it, really, given the success they've had over the last couple of years. But from you looking in on the outside, do you think it's a club that is moving in the right direction, or do you wish they'd make a couple of changes?
Yeah, of course it's moved forward with the way it's been playing in the Premiership now for a certain amount of years. So the club is moving forward. I just think they have to be cautious in their decisions. There's got to be a bit of stability there. Now the position that we're seeing them in, you're always looking over your shoulder because you know what the Premiership's like. It's ruthless. And when you're not getting results, it's very hard. And for players around the place with confidence and mentalities, you have to be very, very careful. So for me, it's, how can I say it nicely? I'm trying to think of a way to say it nicely. I just think they have to look now at going back to them times, because when I go down there at the start of the season and you see the facilities, why is this club not producing academy players coming through the system with the facilities that they have? I don't get it. I don't know what their thoughts are. I don't know whether they have faith in the youth coming through or whether the recruitment's good enough for the players to go through into the first team. I don't know. I can't answer them questions because I don't work at the club, so I don't know what people's decisions are daily. But for me, it's important with them facilities. You have to start producing young kids coming through the system.
Yeah, well, it's something that I know you know well, obviously given your current role, which I want to touch on briefly. I just want to touch on a couple of, one of your other previous clubs. So West Brom away at Hull City. West Brom going along really nicely, of course, top of the table. Looking good for promotion, you'd feel?
Yes, definitely. They got a very strong team. I think Slaven's brought very well with experience. He's added a bit of youth there as well through the academy. And they seem to have gelled. They're gelling really well. When you watch them, they're nice and compact. When they're on the front foot, they're very dangerous. So he's got the right blend there, and it's looking good. But it'll be a tough game for him. Hull have picked up some real good results recently, especially at Fulham last week, winning 3-0. So it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, and just touching on Birmingham, of course, club you're currently with. So Fulham, tough game at home to Fulham. Just want to touch on what you're up to now as well.
I am now the under-18s manager at Birmingham, so working with the academy here. Fantastic, got a real good group of lads and wanting to work hard every day and improve every day. So it's great for me working with these kids. And then obviously we've got a tough game against Fulham, yes, but like you say, I think we'll be encouraged by the result last week against Hull where they lost 3-0, and we just got to play our own game, play the way we've been playing recently, which is good football, and then try and cut out the silly mistakes at the back, conceding silly goals. And I think if we do that, then hopefully it will be a good day for us and we'll pick up 3 points.
Yeah, and just a quick one on Birmingham, because it's one of those many, many clubs that it's always a fascinating league, the Championship. But of course, only 3 points off the playoffs at the moment, despite being down in 12th. You just feel like you only need a small run, a decent run, and not only top 6, but you could be even looking top 2.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous league, this is. I mean, it gets better every year, especially with the quality of teams that are in it. And even the teams that get promoted from League One, they're just so tough to play against because they're organised, they're frustrating. So yeah, at the moment, 3 points, 2 points or 3 points out of the playoffs, tough games. But we're in a positive frame of mind. But like you say, if you lose a couple, you're down again near the bottom because it's so tight. And then if you win a couple, you're right up there, up the top playing against the top teams.
Yeah, it's crazy. The bit that gets me, Birmingham in 12th on 7 wins, West Brom in top on 8 wins. You know, it's just that sums up the league. Robbo, as always, appreciate having you on.
No worries, Rich.
Great stuff. Paul Robinson, former Watford defender, of course, West Brom and Birmingham City as well, giving his thoughts on the game tonight. Norwich taking on Watford. Big game.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. You want to touch on something, don't you?
No. I was just flicking through the paper there.
Well, let's do some front pages, because we like to touch on the front pages from time to time. Just give us a little outline, because we're going to go into a bit more depth shortly, but just give us a little outline as to what is going on. And I appreciate it's this time of the year, or this time every few years, that you're quite limited as to what you can talk about.
Yeah, well, I am. Yes, it's Purdah. So we've got a general election on, which means I'm not really allowed to talk about anything political on pain of death. So there we are. This is a good one, though. Trapped shoppers are forced to spend the night in Sheffield's Meadow Hall shopping centre as torrential rain causes flood chaos, with more families evacuated from their homes overnight. So customers had to sleep on benches, restaurant workers used aprons as pillows, but worst of all, they're in Sheffield. So dozens of people were trapped. I think that's the dream, isn't it? Being trapped in a shopping mall overnight.
It's kind of like something out of a film.
It was wonderful.
Do you think?
Yeah, I'd love that because you've got everything at your disposal.
They wouldn't stay open though, would they? Or would they have to?
Well, I think if you give me 8 hours and one lock.
Yeah.
I
think.
So I'm from the north. Yes, absolutely. So there's that. The high street is collapsing, but this is the big one for me. UK's alcohol shame, Rich. Shame. How Britons drink on average 108 bottles of wine a year. Yeah, give that red hot crack. More than most of the world, and almost 1 litre of pure alcohol more each year than the Americans. Well, look, I mean, if that is just one way that we can beat the Americans. So, which countries do you reckon are the heaviest drinkers.
Russia.
This is average litres of pure alcohol per person per year. You're saying Russia.
Scotland.
Lithuania.
Wow.
They drink more than 12.
Wow.
Austria.
Yeah?
France.
Okay.
But in France, in French schools, the teachers at lunch, they have like wine on the go, which is interesting. The Czech Republic.
Yeah.
Luxembourg.
Okay.
Ireland.
Yeah.
Latvia. Hungary. Russia.
You tell us we're not even in the top 10.
Germany and the UK. When it comes to pure average litres of pure alcohol, we're 19th.
Oh.
And the USA is 21st.
So what you're saying is we need to improve.
We need to improve, and can I just suggest that we all start doing this at airports more?
Go on.
That is an Attenborough documentary waiting to happen, isn't it?
Mm.
And now Barry is at the bar. He's ordered a pitcher. He doesn't need the pitcher. He's ordered it as a way of displaying to his other stag do mates that he is, in fact, top dog.
8:30.
Love sport. Are you being fobbed off by a company? Are they letting you down? And are your complaints falling on deaf ears? We can help you out. Come to aspokesmansaid.com and we will give you a voice and a platform to raise your complaints. As recommended in the Daily Telegraph, aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Are you paying too much for your car and home insurance? A Spokesman Said is the price comparison site that offers the best deals on the market for your energy and insurance. Go to aspokesmansaid.com and you could be reducing your bills in minutes.
With aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money. This is Lionel, another very happy person who saved themselves money at aspokesmansaid.com.
Hi, I'm Lionel from Peacehaven. I took note of what the spokesman said and I saved £484 per year on my energy, and I recommend everybody does the same.
aspokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings. Compare, switch and save with aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
This is Love Sport.
That's Well Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. We're going to be speaking football very shortly. Of course, the England squad was announced yesterday. We'll have Nick Masheter on the line shortly to go through that. Before that, though, Mr. Christys, I believe you've got a very funny Attenborough story. Have I built this up?
Yeah,
Have I built this up?
No, so before the break, I was saying that it's emerged that the Brits are among the world's worst drinkers, which is like, you know, in other news, the water's wet. But I said, like, it's an Attenborough documentary waiting to happen, isn't it? The airport drinking.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just seems to be a rite of passage. When you go to an airport, no matter what time it is, you know, there will just be, you'll get your lager louts, but you'll also just get people who, for all intents and purposes, you can tell he's like an actuary and she works in accounts at like some kind of like posh prep school, but it is 4 a.m. and they're getting stuck in at the bar.
There's a reason for this, because the moment you go through the customs or whatever it's called, the moment you're in that and you've got the duty free, technically you don't exist as far as I'm aware. You're kind of in no man's land, so there is no time There is no 7 o'clock. You have to wait until you have your glass of red wine. You just exist. It's a perfect opportunity.
It's one step away from you just walk in, everyone's just wearing loincloths, you know, just chewing, just eating meat off the bone. But yeah, so just on that, because I was like, you know, how would Attenborough narrate it? Remind me, so Attenborough's got a new series out, right? And it's really good. It's really good. But my girlfriend was having a bit of a tough day the other day, and she wasn't feeling herself. And I was desperately scrabbling around for things to cheer her up, and I tried loads of stuff, and it wasn't really working. She was quite an emotional wreck, actually. And so I was like, right, okay, look, what can I put on? So I was scrolling through iPlayer, and it's new Attenborough. I was like, oh, this will be great. This will be fantastic. And I forgot that I'd already watched up to a point of this new Attenborough when she wasn't in, and with the full intention of lying to her about it later.
Right, yeah.
And so I was like, oh, don't worry. Look, sit down, right, dry your eyes. We'll put some Attenborough on. Oh, okay, all right. I press play, right, and it's a bit where literally 50 walruses, one after the other, throw themselves off a cliff. and it is the most harrowing scene of a nature documentary that I have ever seen. And you could just see her chin starting to go, her tears going down the face. Oh, why have you done this to me? Why would you do this to me? Yeah, we haven't spoken since.
What happened? Why does that happen?
Well, they're idiots. Walruses are
they
thick.
known to be idiots?
Also, can anyone else just tell me, why do walruses get so much airtime?
Do you think
Every single nature documentary, there's a walrus or a seal. Why?
How are they not extinct if that's what they're doing with their time?
So many of them, it's ridiculous.
Oh, is that?
Oh, mate, it's just you can't move for walrus.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You bumped into many, or?
Well, up north, they're mostly playing bingo.
You have them as pets.
Yeah. Sharon. Hello, Sharon. How you doing?
All right, we're going to be talking to Nick Manchester shortly in regards to the England squad, which was announced yesterday. Do want to just touch on the front pages a little bit more. And again, I mentioned this, we can't do too much because of the fact that there is an election soon to take place. But I know there's a couple of interesting stories on the front pages you're keen to get stuck into.
Oh, you bet, Rich. So the royal family, you know, pulled their finger out a little bit yesterday and attended a memorial service for our fallen heroes. It is also actually about to be, tomorrow it will be anyway, 30 years since the Berlin Wall came down.
Well, there you go.
Oh, well, there we go.
There, that meant a lot.
Fantastic. I've been there. Have you ever been?
No.
It's weird.
Why?
Well, it is just a legitimately strange idea because Berlin's not that big.
Yep.
You can go around Berlin in basically next to no time. And yeah, it's just weird to see a city there that was essentially walled in for quite a while. Strange.
There you go. Just some breaking news. Sorry, we'll carry on with the front pages. But England have beaten New Zealand by 76 runs in the fourth T20, which means they level the series at 2 apiece.
Yeah. Just something else here. Now, I saw this yesterday, actually, and it's in the Sun today. Animal rights activists have started targeting blind people with guide dogs.
Right.
Seriously. So blind people now with guide dogs are being confronted on a semi-regular basis by people professing to be animal rights activists who are saying that this dog is living in bondage and needs to be free to run around the fields and woof when it likes and wag its tail.
No.
Right, yeah, so they're approaching blind people in bars and coffee shops and basically haranguing them and saying that they're terrible people. So let's just have this right. You are so thick. Like so thick, so dense, like bends around you, right? That you think that a human being with eyesight difficulties should just be made to relentlessly walk into walls or not leave the house or what? Because this dog is essentially a servant. Yes, we are better than dogs. We own dogs. We control dogs. It's the same reason we eat cows, because we're better than cows. Get over it.
Yeah.
You could give a dog anything. This is the thing. You could cook a dog, right? A Michelin-starred meal, 15 courses, right? And it's going to eat it in the exact same way that it eats a cow turd. It's irrelevant. It is irrelevant, isn't it? These dogs enjoy their lives.
They do. Oh, I'd love to be a dog. If I come back, I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of like life after death.
No, mate. Oh, life after death?
Yes.
Right.
Like reincarnation.
And not the same as Glenn Hoddles, that's for sure.
Right, okay. I'd love to come back as a dog.
I would. I'd like to come back as a dog that like I was looking after.
Really?
Anyway,
I wouldn't want to come back as Patrick Christys' dog.
Oh, you would, mate. It's a good life.
Really?
So another quick one about.
Could I just touch on my blind story? Because actually, this is something that I want to get your thoughts on, because this happened recently and I didn't know how to feel about it, okay? Now, this is one where, no, it's a serious story, because so I'm sat having a coffee outside and I'm just I'm on the phone. I'm not really paying attention, but I'm just literally sat doing nothing. And a blind guy walks into me and got really annoyed with me. And I didn't know what to say because I felt bad. What's the right thing to do there? So I was like, I'm really sorry.
Right, so just talk me through it. So you're standing or sitting?
I'm sitting. I'm sat on a table, on a chair, and I'm sat having my coffee, and I was on the phone, and a blind guy walked into my knee and hurt himself a little bit, and I felt dreadful, and he started shouting at me, and I didn't know what to do. So I'm thinking maybe you can help me with this, Patrick, because you are a man of wisdom. I said, I'm so sorry. I wasn't moving, I promise you.
And
he was like, he was furious with me, really, really angry, swearing at me.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I felt dreadful, and I don't know what the right answer is there.
I mean, it's strange, really, isn't it? Because it sounds as though he's in the wrong, but it also sounds as though I can't really say that.
No.
Well, I think you handled it well, Rich. I think you've just got to keep your cool in that situation, and yeah, just apologise and be the bigger man in a sense.
Anyway, there you go. Sorry, bit of a tangent. What have you got for us?
So yeah, another kind of nutty animal rights thing. A vegan who rescued a pig has been blasted by animal rights charities because she kept it in a tiny flat. Alicia Day, 31, had... so sorry, the Sun have put a picture of her on the right-hand side of the page, and it's gone, Alicia Day, 31, far right. And it was like, wow, a Nazi vegan. Wow, who would have thought that? A Nazi vegan. Anyway, she's not a Nazi vegan. Had baths. She had baths with the pig. But she even spent £400 on a taxi taking it from a farm in Devon, where she rescued it from, to her flat in West London. Unfortunately, a landlord found out and evicted her, and now the pig is living with the RSPCA. Can I just say what I find a bit weird about all this?
Go on.
Someone will go to these great lengths to rescue a farmyard animal, right? There are children being bombed in Syria, right? There are children being bombed in Gaza. There are children starving in Africa, South America. In case you're wondering, it's knackered, mate, from top to bottom, right? Why? Isn't it a bit weird that somebody like Alicia Day cares more about, I think it is actually just called Porky, than any of these human beings that are out there?
Yes. I mean, look,
I find that weird.
There's lots we could touch on this. The fact that the front page of the paper the other day was a guy that had a firework placed somewhere. I mean, I for all the things that are going on in the world, we have a front page of a guy that decides to stick a firework in a certain
I get that, because that's a business decision, because that sells papers, and we're talking about that still.
Right.
But this, give 400 quid to a charity that, I don't know, reduces like deaths from malaria among children in Rwanda or wherever. You know, why drive to Devon to rescue a pig that you then lock in your London flat? Like, I'm not being funny. Is anyone looking at these people?
I mean, everyone needs purpose, right? Everyone needs direction.
That's not purpose, mate.
No.
It's a breakdown.
One more story actually I want to touch on, just quickly. Michael O'Neill looks set to become the Stoke manager, we believe.
Really?
So Northern Ireland's Michael O'Neill could double his salary and be appointed on a 4-year contract at Stoke City. Of course, he had a lot of success with Northern Ireland.
Well, I think he's probably quite well prepared for that, because he comes from a part of the world where, there's a lot of misery and low expectation.
18 minutes to 9.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice. AsSpokesmanSaid.com is a leading price comparison website that allows you to compare every energy tariff on the market in seconds. We have more deals than any other comparison website offering energy prices, and our impartial independent switching service is free of charge. Nearly 50% of UK households have switched bills, and there are hundreds to be saved. Visit AsSpokesmanSaid.com, as recommended in The Guardian, The Times and The Sun. AsSpokesmanSaid.com.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated, and are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger. and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
This is Love Sport.
That's for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, and Patrick Christys. We're here with you until 10. Do you want to touch on the England squad, if that's okay with you?
I'd love to touch on the
Mr.
England squad. Not in the
Christys?
same way that a lot of models would like to touch on the England squad, but we can talk about it.
But we can talk about it indeed. So, Maddison is part of the latest England squad. What do you make of that?
Mad dog. Yeah, good. Obviously, he was in a little bit of hot water for being asked to leave the England setup when we took on Bulgaria because he had a virus, and then he went to a casino and watched the second half there. That clearly is way out of Gareth Southgate's rule book in terms of how you should handle yourself. But his performances have been so good that Southgate stumped for him again. And apparently Southgate has said to him he wants him to be high performance, low maintenance. Look, Rich, do you hear anything about James Maddison in terms of, is he high maintenance as a bloke?
Do I hear anything? I don't know him personally. I know bits and pieces of him. I mean, he's incredibly talented, first and foremost.
Massively.
Look, I don't think the impression I get is a reasonably positive one. He's now going through that transition of being a bit of an unknown to now being a known, and he's going to be a name. So, whereas, from what I understand, he obviously from Leicester, naturally they go out in Leicester from time to time. I think he'll now start to have to make that transition. This casino story, I think, will have been a bit of a wake-up call to him, that he's no longer James Maddison playing for the youth team or playing for the reserves. He is now in England squads. He will probably go on and play a lot of games for England. There is a certain lifestyle you have to lead. It's interesting, the bigger clubs have now taken this to the next level. Like Manchester United, I'm aware that they do this, where it's everything. Your whole life, suddenly, you are in this bubble. So if you are a player for Manchester United, let's say your girlfriend wanted to get a job, they'd have to consult with Manchester United first as to what type of job they get. That's a true story. Yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, roll back on that. So just tease that one out for me.
Yeah, no, it's true, because they want They want to make sure that the image of the player remains intact, the image of the club remains intact. Now, look, 99% of the time, the job that a significant other gets will be absolutely fine. But imagine that they were to go and do a job that might be regarded as risque, for instance. Okay. Manchester United wouldn't want that. That's an example. Not just Man United, by the way.
It'd be funny, mate, but what? You just say, sorry, that's my girlfriend or my wife. That's her life. Do one.
Well, I mean, you could try.
Well,
would you do that to Manchester United? If you were a player at Manchester United and your girlfriend decided she wanted to go into an industry that you deemed or they deemed to be a bit risque, then Manchester United might say to you, "Look, Patrick,
but that's
I know you've got incredible ability, but we would ask that she doesn't do that."
But that's strange because they forgive footballers for so many more significant indiscretions.
I just think, and I'll be honest, I kind of get it, because I think actually you want to try and keep your players, or the focus on the pitch. You want to make sure that the focus on them is in regards to their performance and not in regards to what might be going on outside. There's already enough stuff that leaks into the press as it is, so they will try and minimise that. I'd like to come back to James Maddison. I feel like you want to labour this point a bit. I want to come back to James Maddison, where my point being, whether Leicester have those things in place at the moment, certainly I think the casino story will be one whereby actually moving forward, James, you have to be so careful in terms of what you do, where you go. If you're going to have a night out, that's fine, but make sure you're not going to the places where the masses go. In fact, Gareth Southgate had a few comments on him. He talked about the fact that he was ill, but he actually made the point. He said, as an England player, you have a different profile. Everyone has a camera phone and wants to make money selling pictures.
Adil Rami went out with Pamela Anderson. If he was playing in the Premier League, would he have been allowed to do that?
I mean, this is then, again, it would have been a conversation. If he's playing for a top club, it would have been a conversation. Look, let's not kid ourselves. Man United, David Beckham going out with Victoria Beckham at the time. Now, we read what we read in the papers, but if you're Sir Alex Ferguson, are you delighted that one of your players is going out with a Spice Girl?
So is Jamie Vardy copping it at the minute then? You know, a Leicester putting the squeeze on him, saying your missus has been leaking things to the press.
They won't be happy about it because it's not the press you want to associate with your football club, I would suggest. I don't know this for fact, of course.
Having said that, he's scoring for fun now since it's happened, so I suppose you probably let him have it, don't you?
You kind of let him off.
Yeah.
But no, of course, football clubs, of course they don't want the negative PR. When all the stuff comes out, you know, Ched Evans, who in the end was obviously found not guilty after everything, but that's a good example. You can imagine as a football club, the moment you wake up and you see that on the back page of the papers, it's a horrendous thing to have linked. Derby County at the moment are going through it.
Well, yeah, I mean, Adam Johnson as well. I mean, that's, you know, you all think about what shirt he was wearing at the time, don't you? You can't get around that, you know. So, yeah.
There you go. Just another one. Stones, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Hudson-Odoi recalled. Michael Keane dropped.
Good. I can't understand why he's been anywhere near this England squad. Can you?
Look, he's had a rough time recently.
Throughout his career?
No, look, he was very good at Burnley and obviously they made the move. Look, he's had a rough time recently. He's had a rough time. Look, John Stones hasn't had the best of times, who has, of course, been recalled. I wonder whether there's... Is that for... I say that is that. I'm not even going to ask. I think for me, is still the position going into next summer that we need to get nailed.
I worry for John Stones. I worry because he had a massive upheaval in his personal life. He's been with his partner for a very, very long time, and her family were employed by him as well, right through from being like gardeners at his house to just various staff that help with his day to day. And he cut all ties. Well, not all ties, but he moved out and all that. And since then, his performances have gone downhill, markedly so. He looks dishevelled.
Yep.
He wasn't ready to come on the pitch the other week when Pep Guardiola wanted him to come on as a sub. I worry about John Stones.
Yep.
To me, he looks like somebody who is going through the motions as opposed to, well, frankly, striving for perfection every game, and I'm concerned by that.
Well, it'd be interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he gets on in this particular squad, how he finishes the season. Because you'd think going into next summer, you want him to be, because he's got all the ability in the world. By the way, let's just say that.
I think he's off, isn't he?
Well, we'll see. Another one. Just want to touch on Grealish. He had some comments. Gareth Southgate had some comments in regards to Jack Grealish. Said he was very close to making the squad. Grealish is a very good player. I've watched him closely this season. The reality is he's up against Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, and Callum Hudson-Odoi. If we have any issues in the squad, I wouldn't hesitate to call him up. He was very close. He just has to keep playing the way he is.
Yeah, I think that's it with Grealish. I think from what I see of him, he's clearly got an immense amount of talent. He's just, for me, he's just not quite at that level yet. He's just a little, well, basically what Gareth Southgate said, he's just very slightly behind. I mean, Raheem Sterling's on his own out there somewhere in the ether, but, the rest of them, he's just a little bit behind. But, to be honest with you, in about 4 or 5 Premier League games' time, he might not be.
Yeah.
He might have surpassed a couple of those players. So, yeah, fair play to him.
Indeed. He also had some comments on the racism in Bulgaria. And he said, I think the sanctions are going to get higher and higher, but I couldn't honestly tell you what the right answer for that would be. I think it'd be impossible to pitch and get consensus on. I understand that sanctions are important, but other people have got to deal with that. So he's trying to keep himself out of this debate, which I guess is probably the best course of action if you're Gareth Southgate.
Doing that really awkward British thing, isn't he?
Yeah.
Where it's like,
if I mumble for a little while.
And what I will do is I won't quite finish my, so I will just skirt around and talk.
That was Gareth Southgate there.
Yeah.
His thoughts on the...
Clear as day.
Indeed. What else is going on, Mr. Christys?
So we are returning to the ongoing saga that is the scandal surrounding British athletics and British cycling. So we know that in British cycling anyway, the Team Sky's head coach and various other performance directors, etc., are currently being scrutinised over testosterone, the use of testosterone, the ordering of testosterone, and lies have been told right from the start on this. We know that because Richard Freeman, who's one of the people who's up for being up for this inquiry, has admitted that. His quote is, "I told a lot of lies." Here, what we're hearing today now is that Richard Freeman, he is claiming anyway, that he was forced to order the 30 sachets of testosterone gel from a firm in Bolton because he was basically scared of Team Sky head coach Shane Sutton, who he claims led a culture of bullying. Now, flip it back over as well, because we've got the athletics. And what are we hearing today? That a lot of athletes are coming out and saying that they suffered mental and physical harm at Nike's Oregon project because Salazar was in their allegations, bullying them. And here we go now. Is this part of where this puzzle comes together? That at the head of these sporting behemoths, these tremendously successful sporting entities that are breaking new ground with everything they do, that are setting the example, at the head of it is some kind of megalomaniac bully that basically wants to play roulette with people's lives and will stop at nothing for victory.
I mean, the picture that we're building, I guess more and more it's looking that way. I mean, I don't know. It'd be so interesting as to how the next few months play out. I'd love just to peek into the future to see how this does all play out, or the retests that they're talking of doing as well. Because, look, it could be that we're sat here in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, and we've seen the complete demise of athletics, the complete demise of cycling. You know, it just, at what point do the public just switch off and say, all these things you believe to be true? There's only so many times you feel like you can be lied to. And then there comes a point when you actually, do you know what, this isn't fun anymore. Like, it was great at the time. I was cheering Lance Armstrong on for a period of time because I thought it was incredible coming back from what he had to go through and winning after. What a guy, and he's so strong and everything. Then you find out it's all a lie. All those emotions you had towards it, all those magic moments disappear in an instant.
But there's loads of things like that now. So there's this lad who was a Fortnite player, you know, the game. And it turned out he'd been using, like, cheat software, basically, to, you know, help him shoot people. And that's like, millions of people watched his videos, and maybe they were being lied to. He says they weren't. You know, same with sports now, same with everything. And you know, you look at things like, you know, banks and business figures and stuff, and you go, well, that's not strictly true, is it? You know, people are trying to get around tax left, right, and centre. You sort of build this picture, and you think, yeah, politicians. No, I can say this, we're impaired it. They're all as bad as each other. That's equal. That is equal. Thank you very much. They're all as bad as each other. You know, actually, we are just all lied to about pretty much everything on a daily basis, aren't we?
Is that everything, though? If you're given boundaries, the natural inclination is to try and push those boundaries, maximise those boundaries, and for some people, they don't care if they cross those boundaries.
But we all present this image that we're not. So I now started working off the idea that what a big corporation or a big company or a big, you know, thing try to present themselves as, the opposite is probably true. Right, so you know, if you, how many times? So Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, presents himself as the most anti-racist person. Blacks up more times than I've had hot dinners. That bloke. You know, there's also been serious allegations which he has responded to, which is why I'm allowed to talk about them, in relation to his conduct towards women. He brackets himself as one of the leading feminists in the world. So the opposite is usually true of what people say and do, in my opinion. And this is the kind of same with sports now. You know, this squeaky clean image, this idea that Team Sky is this hotbed of scientific excellence where sporting prodigies can maximise their potential. The idea that Nike Oregon Project, they're doing these things off the, you know, just raw physical ability. Look at these physical experiments. You know, the Nike adverts of just do it. You know, the grit, determination, blood, sweat and tears. Well, the opposite's true, isn't it, really?
What do you guys think? As always, 0208 70 20 558 at Love Sport Radio on the socials. We are on YouTube as well. Again, great to see several of you tuned in on YouTube also. Do stay with us. 3 minutes to 9.
Love sport. If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Are you throwing away your hard-earned money on expensive energy bills? Keep the price down when you turn the heating up. You could be saving hundreds by switching to a cheaper deal. A spokesman said.com compares all the best deals on the market and finds you the one that can save you the most cash. Find the cheapest energy tariffs for you. Go to a spokesman said.com and start saving today. Do stay tuned. We've got a lot coming in the next hour. We're going to be speaking to Nick Friend from the Cricketer magazine. Of course, England, they have won today to level the series at 2-2 in the T20 series with New Zealand. We'll also be speaking to Mick Martin, former Man United midfielder. Of course, United won 3-0 yesterday against Bratislava. A good evening for United's front men. We'll be talking about that. And of course, Man United take on Brighton this weekend in what promises to be a tough game. As always, get in touch, 0208 70 20 558. You can call us on that number. You can send us a WhatsApp. We're on the socials as well, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Love Sport Radio. Or you can tune into YouTube. Just type in Love Sport Breakfast. We're on there. You can leave comments where you can watch us live. The time is 9 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 9. 5 severe flood warnings have been issued for a river in South Yorkshire after torrential rain overnight. Residents in Doncaster have been advised to evacuate their homes, and in Sheffield the River Dons burst its banks in places. Sky's Sally Lockwood is there.
Average levels here range between 0.2 metres and 3.6, so it's 6.8 metres already and rising.
Several rail lines have been blocked due to flooding, and there are several road closures because of unsafe driving conditions. The election campaign continues, with the Conservatives promising to make it easier for overseas doctors and nurses to work in the UK. Home Secretary Priti Patel says the Tories want to attract more people to fill staff shortages in the NHS.
This will be a fast-track visa that will be processed in 2 weeks. It'll be at a reduced cost because we want to have the best and the brightest coming to the United Kingdom and working in our NHS.
Elsewhere, the SNP is launching its election campaign with a pledge to protect the NHS from trade deals with foreign nations, and Labour's announcing policies to support working women. Royal Mail is fighting the threat of strikes which could disrupt Christmas Post. It claims there were irregularities in a ballot which led to the action being called, and is applying for a High Court injunction. A judge in New York has ordered Donald Trump to pay $2 million for misusing his charitable foundation. He was accused of spending funds to benefit his 2016 presidential campaign. A closing down sale at Mothercare is starting today as it prepares to close all 79 UK stores. It's clearing stock after appointing administrators this week. Manchester United and Celtic both progressed to the last 32 of the Europa League last night. United beat Partizan Belgrade 3-0, while Celtic scored a late winner in a 2-1 victory at Lazio. Rangers beat Porto 2-0, while Wolves made it 3 wins in a row, defeating Slovan Bratislava 1-0. That's the latest. I'm Rosa McRae.
This is Love Sport.
Some people find love par chance. I found love in my Citroën dealership. I looked at new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV with advanced comfort seats, and boom! They said, pay £1,794 up front, then £299 a month for 35 months. I love it. Visit your local Citroën dealership and find love too. New Citroën C5 Aircross SUV.
Citroën.
Citroën UK Limited, a credit broker, not a lender. Offer on PureTech 136-speed manual, 10,000 miles per annum. You won't own the car. Personal contract hire terms, eligibility and return conditions apply. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another hour or so. Then the brilliant Martin Bell is up after us. Let's run through the top stories this morning. Man United scored 3 against Partizan Belgrade to move into the last 32 of the Europa League. Raul Jimenez scores an injury time winner as Wolves beat Bratislava. James Maddison returns to the England squad despite the casino outing. Still no place in Southgate's squad for Jack Grealish. Johnny Bairstow returned for the T20 International. England did win. They beat New Zealand to level the the score at 2-2. And former England captain and Saints hooker Dylan Hartley retires at the age of 33. Wenger is out of the running to become the Bayern Munich manager. Norwich and Watford meet tonight. In fact, we're going to touch on the Premier League games that are due to be played this weekend very shortly. And of course, last night, for those who didn't see it, Celtic and Rangers, both fantastic wins. Celtic, a last-minute winner against Lazio in Rome, and Rangers beat Porto 2-0, both sitting nicely in the Europa League. It is myself, Richard Lee, and of course, Patrick Christys. We're here with you until 10.
We are indeed.
We are indeed.
Absolutely, yes.
I want to talk Premier League. I want to talk the games this weekend.
Yes.
We've touched on the game tonight. We had Paul Robinson on. Of course, you can always listen back to our shows. Simply go on the website and you can listen back to our shows. Also on YouTube, you can listen back. We did have Paul Robinson, ex-Watford, on earlier to talk through that one. Massive game for Watford tonight. Want to touch on some of the games tomorrow, though, Patrick. So, a couple of interesting ones. In fact, many interesting ones. Liverpool-Man City being the crescendo at 4:30 on Sunday. But some other good ones as well. Man United, of course, taking on Brighton, which will be a tricky game for United, I'd suggest.
Well, I suppose, by the metric that any game's a tricky game for Manchester United at the moment.
By the metric as well that I actually quite like Brighton this season.
I made the bold prediction that they were going to go down.
Yes.
And that they were going to finish rock bottom.
Do you stand by your prediction?
I didn't anticipate Watford, because I actually think I've had Watford in 6th.
Ooh.
So it turns out I am actually wrong.
Turns out you know very little about football.
Well, it turns out I haven't got a crystal ball, Mitch. That's what it is. Psychic Pat is not what he used to be.
No, who knew? Chelsea, Palace, London derby. Chelsea, you'd feel the way they've been playing, they'll get the better of Palace. Although, of course, Palace have had some fantastic results. They did go to Old Trafford and got a victory. How do you see that one playing out?
I think, Chelsea just look red hot at the minute. The fact is that even when they're conceding goals like they did against Ajax and the ship 4, they score so many. Like, it's just, I see them having too much for Palace personally.
A game that for me has 0-0 written all over it. Newcastle taking on Bournemouth.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point for Steve Bruce, though. Again, it comes back to as well, how long is it before Newcastle fans just really start hailing King Bruce?
I'd say it's getting there, especially after the last outing. They could have been 6 up against West Ham, which is probably more of an indictment on West Ham than it is a compliment to Newcastle. But no, they look very good. Talking of West Ham, they're away at Burnley, who were beaten convincingly last time out by Sheffield United. Tough game, though, for West Ham. Haven't won, I think it's in 6 now. Roberto in goal's getting a little bit of stick. Really, they need to go to Burnley and get a result. Southampton taking on Everton. This feels another must-win. Certainly both managers under a lot of pressure. It wouldn't surprise me in this one, and I hate to say it, the team that were to lose this one, it wouldn't surprise me, given that we're going into an international break. If you're going to see managers leave their post, it's normally during an international break.
Yes, it is. It is. Look, just talking of managers, Arsene Wenger has been apparently rejected by Bayern Munich. So apparently Arsene Wenger is out of the running to take over as Bayern Munich head coach. This is according to Bild in Germany. The former Arsenal boss, apparently, this is where it gets a bit tragic for me. Apparently the former Arsenal boss called Chief Executive Karl-Heinz Rummenigge on Wednesday to register his interest in the vacant role. But after initial talks, his approach was rejected. This is where it gets even worse. Is that apparently they did want him until the end of the season, but he demanded a long-term contract. He's 70.
And this is where it makes me feel bad. Genuinely makes me feel bad. You know when you watch a sitcom or you watch a movie and they've got the old guy and he's taking his time getting ready, doing his hair like so cute with a little comb, putting on his best jacket. He turns up to the interview and doesn't get the job. It just breaks your heart.
I think that's the John Lewis Christmas advert, isn't it?
It just breaks your heart, and you see
Arsene Wenger just sat on the moon alone, just staring back at Earth.
You know what I mean, though? It's like that horrible moment, and they put the sad music on, and you see him walk away, and you're like, oh. And I can't help but feel that's what's happened here.
Yeah, that is it. That is it. But I love Arsene's ambition. This is the thing, though, because that was one of the things when he was Arsenal manager, wasn't it? Towards the end, where you felt as though he was slightly detached from the reality of the situation. You felt as though he had, and it's an admirable quality, his unflinching belief in his players.
Yeah.
And I don't get the impression as well, when sometimes Pep Guardiola does an interview and like City haven't played well, he's like, oh, they're great, they're fantastic. And you think it's a PR thing that Solskjaer does it.
Yeah.
With Wenger, I think he genuinely meant it a lot of the time, even when they got spanked, and he couldn't really necessarily see that maybe things had got a little bit stale there. I don't think it's entered his head that Bayern Munich wouldn't just slap a 5-year deal in front of him.
Yeah.
I think he's gone. Well, cool. Why
wouldn't he?
not?
Yeah.
You can just hear HR just getting him over the phone. No, you just hear like, no. Well, Arsene, it's nothing personal. It's nothing about your age.
Yeah.
It's just a thing we're doing. And that's all we can say about that.
Yeah, it's that awkward moment. Do you think it was a phone call? Surely it was a face-to-face meet.
Well, I
if
think
it was
what
a phone call,
what probably
if it was a
sealed
phone
it-
call, does Arsene Wenger have an iPhone?
Well, this is the thing. What probably sealed it for them is that he accidentally FaceTimed them first. And he just had like half an hour of his chin, the underneath of his chin, and then he decided to get up and walk around a bit, and you just got like swinging foam footage of his foot as he walks around. Do you know what I mean?
And then you caught a glimpse of him in the mirror, and he's just wearing a robe.
Yeah, he's just got an open robe on. You know. Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
It's not quite mean, that wasn't
That
it?
is really mean. I feel really bad now.
Good luck, Arsene.
I hope that this turns around. I hope he does get the job. If there's truth in the fact they were going to offer it until the end of the season, then I think he should have taken it. If there is truth in that,
I think so. Look, I personally think so. I'd like to see him back in the dugout. You know, even as a United fan, they had that such an epic rivalry, didn't they? I haven't got a bad word to say about Arsene Wenger. I like the guy. He was magnificent for English football. He's a great character. He's a cult hero, isn't he? No matter what club you support, Arsene Wenger is a cult hero. And it would be good to see him back in. The only thing I would say is, look, I would hate to see him go somewhere and have a disastrous... To do a Quique Sanchez-Flores, I would hate to see him go somewhere and have a terrible 9 or 10 games and get sacked, because I think that would be such a sad way to... Because that would end his career, really. I think that would be such a sad way to go about it.
Yeah, well, look, we'll see how this one plays out. Here's a question for you. So, ordinarily, international break, and we've seen this both international breaks so far, at least one manager gets sacked.
Yeah.
We're about to approach the final international break of this calendar year. And then we've got another one, I think it's in March. So this is the last one of this calendar year. Really, it's the last opportunity for owners, last serious opportunity. I'd never recommend that you sack out of these international breaks, because then you've got such a short turnaround time. So, who gets the sack?
Wow.
Yeah, brutal, I know.
Yeah, so probably Quique Sanchez-Flores or Marco Silva.
Do you think, yeah?
I think so.
Everton away at Southampton, and you can't help but feel it's such a vital game for them. Even a victory, I do wonder, whether that'll be enough to give him a stay of execution, because I just feel that it's so poisonous there at Goodison Park at the moment. I mean, Hasenhüttl is under pressure as well.
He is.
Obviously, the recent results, a big game for him, you feel. Quique Sanchez-Flores shouldn't be under pressure, I'd argue, purely given the fact that he hasn't been in that long, and the results have improved gradually, I'd suggest. However, Watford being Watford, you're right. I don't know how that one's going to play out. I wonder whether there could be issues with Pellegrini.
Okay.
West Ham, again, in recent weeks, it would be... I think they've done enough well that he's not under that much pressure at the moment, but certainly the recent performances, and if they were to lose to Burnley, whether they might look at that, given that he's on, I think, the third most money, he's the third highest paid manager in the league, there could be arguments as to whether he's really doing it at the level that maybe West Ham fans thought he would.
It's interesting as well, because I've got a feeling that Ancelotti's going to come back on the market pretty soon.
Really?
Because it's all gone very sour there at Napoli, and Max Allegri is still about, isn't he? And of course, as well, the former Bayern boss Niko Kovac. So there are now people just circling like vultures.
Indeed. Other managers to note, obviously, there's a couple that are very safe. One that we haven't touched on, Unai Emery, of course. They're away at Leicester.
Well, that's another one, isn't it? Actually, do we think that there's a chance? I think they'll give him to the end of the season.
Well, look, they've got Leicester away. It could depend on, if they were to lose, how big the defeat were. And you feel at the moment, Leicester, they've got the ability to put several past the side, like Arsenal at the moment.
I think what's happened at United post-Fergie might actually work in Emery's favour. Because, look, let's be honest, Arsenal took a very long time to get rid of Wenger. Very long time. It's not in that club's nature to sack managers that quickly. And all right, Emery has been there a while. Don't get me wrong, but I just wonder if are they concerned that they look over what happened there at United. Moyes goes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, what's going on with Solskjaer now, and I just wonder if they're thinking, I might just give him to the end of the season. Just give him to the end of the season. Let's just see. It's a long road, and then you can make a change in the summer.
You just mentioned another name there, of course, Solskjaer, who. You feel that they've done enough recently that he'll continue as is. Graham Potter, of course, new into the job, doing well. You feel the majority of the other managers, Dean Smith doing very well at Villa. Of course, Liverpool City have fantastic managers there. That being said, we've probably named 6 managers there that I think we might see one sacking. However, if all 6 got sacked, they wouldn't be massive surprises. It'd be interesting we just see like a mass cull of managers.
Do you reckon?
The thing is, that's the other part, and you just named it there, where other managers become available. And like we saw with Watford, I felt with Watford, it wasn't pre-planned. It wasn't a case of that game happened, right, we're going to sack him, because it happened a week after that particular game. So you felt that actually it was more a case of, oh, they're available, now I'll make the sacking, rather than sack first and then look for your manager.
Yeah.
So I wonder if actually an option or two comes up that a club knows they can get, that might just push someone over the ledge.
Yes, potentially. Just on that manager merry-go-round, Stoke have made an official approach from Northern Ireland boss Michael O'Neill. The Irish FA has announced. O'Neill has been in charge of this national side since December 2011, of course guided them to their first major tournament in 30 years when they qualified for Euro 2016 in France. The rumour is that he would double his wages if he went to Stoke. Yeah. Would that be a good move?
Would it be a good move? Stoke are a club that need a lot of work. First and foremost, they need to find a way to stay in the Championship. If they were to go down to League One, then look, we've seen it before. Sunderland's struggling to get out of League One. It's such a tough division. Portsmouth plummeted all the way down. Luton plummeted down to the National League. So if Stoke were to go again, we've seen better teams than Stoke get relegated into League One. So first port of call would be that. He needs to find a way to grind out a few results to at least give him a season in the Championship. However, financially, they've got the resources that if he was given the summer and they're in the Championship, they're the kind of team that could finish 18th this season and win the league next season. Yeah. So is he a good choice? Done brilliantly at Northern Ireland. I know there's a couple of others that are rumoured to be in the running. I think Neil Harris, who did very well at Millwall, believed to be in the running. Tony Pulis' name gets mentioned from time to time. However, it does seem that Michael O'Neill is the outstanding candidate. The figures they're talking a 4-year deal, £6 million, which is...
Over the 4 years.
Over the 4 years, £1.5 million a year to be manager of Stoke, which apparently would double what he's currently being paid with Northern Ireland. Look, is it the right move? I think he's doing brilliantly with Northern Ireland. I'd argue there's a ceiling on what he can do with Northern Ireland. I'd also argue that a lot of international managers, they want the day-to-day rigour. They want the day-to-day training. They want the games every Saturday, most Tuesdays. They want that pressure put on their shoulders. So if you're being offered double your money and you get to go and take on a project at a club like Stoke who have Premier League potential, yeah, I think it's the right move.
Stoke, the only issue that I would have with this is that I think at the minute his stock is quite high. It's a little bit like when Chris Coleman left the Wales job, right? Their stock is at a decent level. And I don't know if he needs to drop. As big as a club as Stoke are, I don't know if he needs to drop to the bottom of the Championship. I think if he hangs fire a little bit, even if it's a mid-table Championship club.
Yeah, I guess you look at where his stock is at the moment. I like to always come back to blackjack, and he has rolled an 18.
Oh, mate. You do badly at the casinos,
I do really badly. I don't gamble, can you tell?
Yeah,
he's drawn an 18, which I just think, is it the jackpot? No. I don't know what the jackpot would be.
I just feel like with Stoke, there's a sense that there's a bit of a virus there.
Yeah.
And that's set in. And I'm just not sure that's a good move for any manager at the minute.
Well, look, what do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558. We're going to be talking cricket after this with Nick Friend.
Love sport. Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search One You.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work that way. Even a quick look at the message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We are here with you until 10 a.m. Now, of course, England took on New Zealand in the T20 this morning. It has finished. It was a victory for England, a record score as well. Delighted to say we've got Nick Friend, the Cricketer magazine, on the line to go through it with us. Morning, Nick.
Morning.
Morning. That was quite... Yeah, good, thanks. Hope you're well. That was quite a knock from England, was it? 2-4-2 off the 20 overs.
Yeah, it was quite brutal, really. Sort of started fairly placidly, and I think we were 18 for 1 after 4 overs or something, and then there was a boundary, sort of whenever you blinked, really. I mean, 35 boundaries, 14 sixes, all sorts of records broken. It was absolute carnage.
Yeah, well, just run us through it a bit. I believe Darren Milan managed to get a pretty fast turn.
So Milan hit 103, not out. Owen Morgan made 90 odd off 40. They've obviously played a lot of cricket together over the years, although no longer because Milan's just moved off to Yorkshire. But so they know each other's games very well. And I mean, what should be said is it's not the biggest ground in the world, but they were hitting it a long way. I mean, they would a lot of the sixes, certainly the straight ones, would have been 6 at most grounds internationally. And I mean, New Zealand didn't bowl that well. A lot of full tosses, a lot of short stuff, a lot of stuff that was fairly easy to get a tickle on down the leg side. But no, I mean, especially against the spinners, they were pretty brutal. I think if Sodi's 17th over went for 28. I think Daryl Mitchell bowled 1 over for 25. It really was pretty impressive stuff. I mean, for an England team that's not really fired sort of as an overall unit on this tour yet.
Yeah, just talk to us about the bowling though, because I mean, New Zealand falling 74 runs short. It's not the worst attempt. So what is a record-breaking total?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny. I guess it becomes a funny sort of game once you're chasing a target like that. I mean, Matt Parkinson, for example, went 4 overs, 4 for 47, but he bowled far better than that. And frankly, I think England will look in the wickets column with him far more than the runs column, because as a young leg spinner, when you're defending a score like that, there's only one way the other team's going to play, and they're going to come after you every ball, and they're going to try and hit you a very long way, and on occasion they did. But so I think it's one of those funny games. It becomes one of those funny games where either they're going to get very close, and you're going to have one of the great games of all time, or you're going to have a game like we had where you've got quite a large margin at the end. But yes, they were going at 10 over, but ultimately they had to. So England were good in the field. I mean, they dropped a couple of tough chances. Pat Brown dropped one easier one on the boundary apart from that, they were far better in the field and far better with the ball than they have been in the last couple.
Well, look, absolutely. Matt Parkinson finishing with figures of 4 for 47, Chris Jordan 2 for 24, and Tom Curran 1 for 26. Is this kind of in a nutshell, really, England's T20 team at the minute, which is that we have got this amazing artillery that can, on its day, post scores like 241, but we don't do it often enough.
I guess this one's a funny tour because they've left so many guys at home. So Josh Butler's not there, Ben Stokes, Jason Roy, obviously Jofra Archer as well. Adil Rashid's nursing a shoulder problem. Moeen Ali's not there. So I think what this England team, is. I mean, we all know what they can do with the bat. I mean, they've got, frankly, the hardest decision they've got come this time next year for the T20 World Cup is going to be sort of what the makeup of that top 6 is. They've got so many options. We've seen Tom Banton come in and look really impressive as well, and obviously Milan. You wouldn't say would get in their first choice side going into this morning's game, but obviously what he's done makes him very hard to drop. I think he's made 6 50s and 10 T20 international innings. That's his entire T20 international career. In any other side, he'd be, I guess, the first name on their team sheet. But with the way he's gone, but there are so many options. It's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, with the ball, same with the ball. I mean, they've got a very experienced bowling attack out in New Zealand at the moment. Chris Jordan sort of leading that and leading it really well. But you'd say he's the only guy out there at the moment, given the way that Rashid's shoulder is, who's dead set on a place sort of come next year. They've got guys to bring in, obviously Stokes and Archer and those guys. So it's a really exciting time for England. The hardest thing for them is going to be picking 15 players to take to Australia for the World Cup, because they're going to be leaving some serious players at home.
Yeah, well, they absolutely are, aren't they? But I suppose it's a good problem to have. It's not like the kind of bad old days where it was scratching around for someone to make up the numbers. So it's a nice position to be in, I suppose. Just talk to me a little bit about Owen Morgan. I mean, he's obviously clinging on to the captaincy. He's got the captaincy. He's just won a World Cup. But what do you make of him? Do you think he'll stick it out for quite a bit longer, or is this more of a transitional period, do you think?
I think having agreed to stay on, as he did do after he went away and sort of, I guess, had a sort of bit of a heart-to-heart with himself after the end of the World Cup. I mean, I think a lot of people would have understood if he'd decided that was the moment that he wanted to move away from it. But I think the fact that he decided to stay on, I mean, we all know what he's like. He's extremely headstrong. He's extremely bright and extremely selfless as well. And so I think he'll be staying on. He'll be staying on certainly for this World Cup. And you'd like to think that would mean there's a further T20 World Cup a year on. So there are 2 in a row, 2020 and 2021. You could argue that 2021 would be a natural moment, but at the same time, that's midway through the 50-over cycle to the next World Cup in 2023. So I think it'll depend on how his back is. He's spoken a lot about that, and how his own form is. I mean, Morgan, he's not been afraid to drop himself in the past when short runs. So if the back's all right and he's getting runs, you'd love to think he'd continue. If either isn't, he'll be the first man to say, Josh Buttler likely to take over. He's sort of done a fair bit of captaincy when Morgan has dropped himself. So I think it'll be, when it does happen, if it does happen, it'll be a fairly seamless transition. But as you showed this morning, I mean, I don't think that's any time soon. No,
exactly. Just talk to me a bit about Johnny Bairstow. He's actually going to remain with England for the Test squad. He, of course, was dropped initially because he averaged just 20.25 with the bat in 9 Tests this year. But he's been called in for cover for injured Joe Denley, I believe.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I guess the logic to it is, I mean, they're hoping Denley will be fit for the second warm-up game. So theoretically, he's a warm-up. He's there as cover, and that'll be the end of it. But at the same time, it's a long way to ship someone out for 2 games if they are just going to sit there and watch Joe Denley recover from injury. So there is certainly some logic in it. I mean, there's another argument that if you've been dropped for lack of runs, why do you become the next cab off the rank? I mean, I've seen that going around social media this morning and last night, and there is certainly some merit to it. I mean, he's been left out because of his lack of runs, and England see him at the moment as a guy that would like to be a specialist batsman because Josh Buttler's going to keep in the Test series. So if he's not scoring enough runs, then why is he staying with the Test squad? I mean, I guess the other side of the coin is not many guys have scored many runs for England in red ball cricket consistently for a while. So no, I mean, he's a very good player. He'll be back in that Test team at some stage next year, you'd assume. Just with the volume of runs, you'd think he'll score in at least white ball cricket and back in England. But yeah, I mean, so he'll be with the squad. Whether or not he plays, I guess, depends on Denley's ankle. And Denley's been up having a net. He's been involved in some of the training stuff the last couple of days. I think the hope is that he'll be fine, and you sort of hope for Denley's sake as well that he's okay, because having sort of worked, his way into position when the position is his, you'd like to think he gets a fair crack in the whip now. Yeah, indeed. Great stuff. Nick, appreciate you coming on. Nick Friend, the Cricketer magazine, giving his thoughts on England's current cricket situation. Great win today, 242 off their 20 overs. It was insane knock by, talking about Milan, fastest T20 century by an England batsman, 103 off just 51 balls.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, legend.
Yeah.
This is where cricket's going, though, isn't it? I mean, when you look back at some of the scores that they used to post in the 50-over format, and it was just nuts now. I mean, you wouldn't even... I mean, teams like Zimbabwe are scoring more runs than that now. It's amazing how the progression of the game has come on, and it's quite scary to think about where it can go, because we've got to a point now where you think, like, well, surely we can't really be hitting any more boundaries or any, because bowling is improving as well as batting. So at what point does cricket just peak? We've got to be getting pretty close to that peak now.
Morgan with 91 off 41 balls.
Yeah, it's box office, mate.
Yeah, fantastic. We've had messages in. Thank you as always for the messages. One here from Hamza. Do you guys think the Liverpool and City result will show who will win the league?
Yeah.
But do you think if City win his one, because this is the one that we haven't really talked about. We talked about a Liverpool win, 9-point gap, given that they dropped so few points, whether that might be game over for Man City. How about that, though? If City win... Does then, even though they're still 3 points behind, does the momentum swing back City's way, given that they will then have to play them at home later in the season, and given that City, their goal difference is that much better than Liverpool? Actually, on their day, you would argue that City, a full-strength City, is better than a Liverpool team. I'm sure not everyone will agree with that, but I think they've just got the edge.
Yeah, I think that if Liverpool win, it's game over. Yeah. I think if City win, it's game on. I think that Liverpool last season struggled when they were out in front, but they got out in front later on. And I think it became an immediately very, very pressurised situation dealing with a City team that was still in form. Whereas now, I think Liverpool have been out in front since the start, and they've looked good for it so far. I just think that if they win, then that's it, personally. I think, frankly, if Liverpool lose against City, I still feel that they've got enough to go on and win. There's an aura about them this year. There's an aura.
If you're a Liverpool fan and I offered you a draw now, would you take it, or would you see this as an opportunity to beat City?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest with you, mate. I've been thinking about it for quite a while now, and I'm not sure.
Sounds like you're Wayne Rooney. It's just like a very generic Liverpudlian accent.
It's not really a Liverpool accent, is it?
Is it not? No. Well, I mean, you're from round that way, right?
From Manchester.
Well, nearby, like 10 miles apart, right?
Right.
29 minutes past 9.
This is Love Sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna, men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in?
No.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, literally Patrick Christys here with you for another half an hour or so. Of course, the brilliant Martin Bell is up after us, so do stay tuned for that. It was a good night for our boys in the Europa League yesterday. Wins for Wolves, Man United, Celtic and Rangers. We're going to be talking Man United. 3-0 win against Partizan Belgrade. Delighted to say we've got Mick Martin, former Man United midfielder, on the line to talk about Manchester United. Morning, Mick.
Morning. How's everything?
Yeah, all good. Hope you're well. So, good win for United. Fair to say, not the best opposition. I know Partizan Belgrade 10 points behind Red Star Belgrade in their league. Of course, Red Star going down to Spurs the night before. But a win's a win. It's nice to see United score a few goals.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I'd rather them have played and faced a Partizan Belgrade than a stronger opposition, because you can go and you can outclass teams like that. And Manchester United, the victory was 3-0. It was comfortable, but it gives you confidence going into the weekend. Having sort of had a difficult time prior to this.
Yeah, does it look as though Marcus Rashford's back at it for you?
Well, he's scoring goals. He looks as if he's confident. As I said to you, the quality of the teams. The team he played against last night will give him a big help. But when he comes up against the big boys, that doesn't seem to be around so often. But that's the way it is. Manchester United, you look at where they are in the league, and they're sort of way down. They're only a point ahead of where I'm based, up at Newcastle, a point ahead of Newcastle. And you would never have dreamt that would be the situation at the start of the season. They should be up around where Chelsea are, 23 points.
Yeah, I just want to have a quick chat about Scott McTominay, because for me, I was a little bit unconvinced when he first broke into the team, but I think there were a lot of comparisons drawn with maybe Darren Fletcher's first foray into the Manchester United first team. I saw him last night. I've seen him a couple of weeks recently. He's added goals to his game, and his positional awareness seems to be good, but his passing seems to have improved. When he gets the ball in the middle of the park, the way that he looks immediately for the strikers and the way that he kind of picks that lot, I think he's really stepped up a bit. Do you think United might be sitting on a bit of a gem here?
Well, it's funny you should mention Scott McTominay, because in my previous occupation I was working with the national team for the Republic of Ireland, and I was out monitoring players who could possibly qualify to play for us, and I went to see Manchester United's under-21s play Sunderland's under-21s going back maybe a couple of seasons ago, and this fella stood out, and I went, McTominay, you've got to try everything in the position I was in. Like, if his name sounds half Irish, you pursue it and you make phone calls, and he stood out in this game, and it didn't surprise me to see how his progress come into Manchester United. He's a very upright midfield player. His stride, he's got very high, his knees hop up high. He's not sort of very, very quick over the ground, but he's very, very solid and direct, and he doesn't lose possession of the ball. He likes to get into the box, and I love to see that about midfield players. If there's an opportunity you see to get in there and get your name on the score sheet, you do that, rather than just sit out and say, oh, let me see what happens. I think he thinks when he sees play develop, wow, maybe I can get in there, and maybe nick myself a goal, which could be important. He's been a good acquisition. He's a good player. He's got most of it. He passes it. He tackles. He heads it, a bit like me.
Hey.
Hey, you can make a comeback still, Mick. You can make a comeback.
Wish I could.
Let's talk United in January, because there seems to be certain improvements. Some of the players they brought in, of course, bringing in Maguire, Daniel James, Wan-Bissaka. Certainly Daniel James, Wan-Bissaka, I think it's been very, very positive, that the acquisition of both of them. Going into January, how many players are United off being a top 4 team again? I know that was the aspiration at the start of the season. I think right now, top 6 arguably would probably be the aspiration. But from being a solid top 4 team again, how many players short are we talking?
I really don't know. You look at it close, and you listen to the pundits, like you look at Roy Keane, and you listen to Graham Souness, people who I know, very good knowledge of the game. They're talking about 5 players possibly, and it's going to cost Manchester United a lot of money. But in order to sort of take 5 players in, you basically, I think, got to get rid of 3, which I don't think they'd have any problem with. But I think they probably would need around that amount of players, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I mean, will they be? The other thing is, will they be queuing up to come to Manchester United? Because all these top players want to be seen in the top level. They want to be seen in the Champions League. They want to be seen in telly all over the world. Maybe the Europa League is not big enough for some of these guys who you're going to pay 40, 50 million pounds for. The Man United name, yes, you're going to put there, but you want to be seen playing against the big boys. The Liverpools, the Man Cities in Europe, the Juventuses and all these. But wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're on about there, mate. The idea that playing in a final away in Azerbaijan is not some kind of big-time Charlie's game. I mean, come on, mate, surely. But
I know, that's what I'm saying, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But no, on a different note, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he always fascinates me with his comments. Because he's a very good PR man, right? He's very good at kind of saying what he thinks is the right thing to say for the club, and that's great. But when the players were coming off last night, as in when he was subbing players, and I've noticed him do this in a few games, he'll bring a player off, and he will be sat in his seat in the dugout, and he'll seek them out to go and give them the big high five and be like, "Oh, well done, mate, well done." Whereas you see a lot of managers just stay where they are, and the player goes to them. Is he trying to be a bit too matey, do you think?
Well, I really don't know. He seems to be that type of likeable guy, and going over and patting players on the back or getting a high five, having to substitute them. Sometimes that can backfire on you, but I've seen on many occasions, managers going over to players, to sort of shake their hand, having substitute them, and then blank them, But you wouldn't like anything like that to happen. But I don't think that the playing staff at Manchester United would be like that with Solskjaer, because he's such a nice guy. He comes across as such a nice guy that I couldn't see him having many enemies,
Indeed. Just want to talk a little bit about Newcastle as well, another one of your former clubs. They got Bournemouth at home this weekend. You mentioned that you're still based up that way, and it's fair to say, bearing in mind the games they've had, I think they've played, I want to say 6 of the top 7 if you include Leicester in that. I believe that's true. So they've played a lot of tough games. They've actually now got a run of games where they can pick up some points. This is the kind of game where they'll be looking at thinking, do you know what, win here at home to Bournemouth. Of course, Bournemouth will be tough, but win here, and you can be in the top half of the table. So far, so good for Steve Bruce.
Well, I'll tell you what, the last 3 or 4 games I've seen at home, they were really, really poor. You know, you might say fair play to Steve Bruce. Without beating Tottenham away, 1-0 early on in the season, and beating Manchester United at home 1-0 going back 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then going down to West Ham and winning 3-2, has them in the position they are. Because I've seen them earlier on in the season. You're talking about playing, they played Brighton. And they were hopeless. They played Watford and they were hopeless. You know,
Norwich as well.
Norwich, well, that was away when they got hammered.
Right,
you know, I'm talking about the home games, and then they go and face Bournemouth. You know, when you look Newcastle v Bournemouth, without looking at the actual current form, you'd say Newcastle will beat them because their name is far bigger than Bournemouth. No disrespect to Bournemouth, you know. But what I'm saying is, just based on the games that I've seen and the teams around the same level as Newcastle, this is going to be a harder game for them at home against Bournemouth on Saturday than all previous games, because the expectation, having beaten West Ham away, is to come and beat Bournemouth comfortably at home.
Yeah, exactly. Just quickly, we're getting some breaking news through, actually. We were talking before about Michael O'Neill being approached by Stoke.
Yeah, good lad, Michael, yeah.
Well, apparently he's taking training this morning and he's expected to be in charge for tomorrow's game against Barnsley. That's moved quick. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I know Michael quite well. He's a top boy and he's been hugely successful with Northern Ireland. I was delighted to see that, and I'm not surprised that a club like Stoke would be interested in him because he knows what the game is. Just surprised to see that he's taken training this morning because he's got a couple of important games coming up for Northern Ireland. I think he plays Holland next week and somebody else a couple of days afterwards. But if he takes the Stoke job, I'd be delighted for him because it's something that he's worked hard at and probably deserves.
Very, very quickly, of course, you represent the Republic of Ireland many times. They have a massive, massive game, their final game.
It's bigger than that.
It's bigger than that, isn't it? So there's a game, it takes place Monday 18th at home to Denmark, all to play for. Have they got enough?
It's hugely hard to say. Mick has them a little bit more organised at the moment. They're kind of hard to beat. Where you see a goal coming from is your problem, you know. James McLean can nick you a goal, and set plays, big central defenders can come up and get a glance on one or two. So I think that's where your hope is. You know, if you're a big betting man, the away team would be odds on at home to the Republic of Ireland. But you know, in your own patch, with such a big game and a lot on it, you think that they might just nick something there.
Great
I
stuff.
hope so anyway.
Great stuff. Mick, appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure, boy. Look after yourself.
Great stuff. You two have a great weekend. Mick Martin, their former Man United and Newcastle midfielder and Republic of Ireland midfielder. It is a fascinating group, by the way. So Republic of Ireland currently top of the group, 12 points from their 7 games. Denmark, 12 points from 6 games. Switzerland, 11 points from 6 games. So it's all going to come to a climax, of course, during the international break. Last game, Republic of Ireland at home to Denmark. Yeah. Denmark with a much better goal difference than Republic of Ireland. Should be a very interesting set of games, you would feel.
It should be indeed. Yes, okay.
You just touched on the fact that it looks like O'Neill is now manager of Stoke, apparently.
Well, that appears to be. I mean, he's taking training, apparently. So that's usually quite a good indication of who the manager is, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just checking this. I don't think there's an official announcement.
No, it's not officially announced. It's Sky sources.
Okay.
So, but you'd imagine you could just go and have a look.
Yeah,
you'd
really?
Feel. Is he there? You know, we're still waiting for anyone to take any pictures or video. I mean, you'd have thought if he's taking training, unless they're doing some quite hefty indoor work, which I suppose they may well be doing.
I mean, normally training starts at 10:30. This is where you need a Bielsa figure in the trees. Taking pictures.
Yeah. Just also some news. Arsenal midfielder Denis Ceballos has been ruled out of Saturday's game at Leicester with a hamstring injury. That could be a blow for Unai Emery.
It could indeed. Of course, Leicester, and you just feel if they were to be beaten heavily by Leicester, could that be the end of Unai Emery? What do you think? 0208 70 20 558. 17 minutes to 10.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
Hi, my name's Kurt Edwards. I work in advertising and live in Surrey. Last year, the family content insurance was £745. A friend of mine had recommended a spokesmansaid.com. When it came for this year's renewal, I managed to get it for £403. So for those 10 minutes on that website, I saved over £340. Told my family, my friends, you'd be absolutely mad not to give it a go.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for 15 more minutes, and then, of course, it is Martin Bell. Mr. Christys, I believe you've got something you want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I always do. I'm just going to return back to the Saracens story. So Saracens, of course, a powerhouse of English rugby. There are calls, well, really by former or current players, I should say, of other clubs, to relegate Saracens and have them banned for about 3 years. Now, in case you're just joining this story, it is the case that Saracens were not necessarily entirely above board when it came to their players' salaries and matching or meeting the salary cap of £7 million for their entire squad. What they did, in order to, apparently anyway, get around all this kind of stuff, was they paid the players, but then they set up investment firms with the owner, Nigel Ray, as well, on the side. And this was deemed to be essentially illegal. They were fined 35 points and 5.3 million quid. Now, players are coming out of the woodwork, left, right and centre, most notably players from teams like Harlequins and Exeter, who traditionally are some of Saracens' greatest challengers, to say that they should be binned out of the league. This is atrocious. It's cost people their careers. It's cost them the best memories of their life and all this kind of stuff. And look, I personally just think the whole thing is just a real storm in a teacup. Like, you've got an owner there who's a fabulously wealthy and successful individual who actually would quite like to see some form of success for his money and has decided that he wants to go into business with some top-level rugby stars. So what?
That's another angle, isn't it? Where it's, okay, you've got money. It's I appreciate there's certain rules and restrictions in place, and they want to try and keep it fair. I'll go back to the point I made earlier. Life isn't fair. Now, ultimately, you've got an owner, goes back to it. You want success. How are you going to generate success? Right, I've got a lot of money. I want the best players playing for my club. Now, that might be ego. It might be legacy. It doesn't matter. I want the best players playing for my club. Right, these are the rules. Okay, what can I do, which is okay, but maybe just alongside the rules? This can be a way in which I can attract an Owen Farrell. This is a way in which I can attract some of the best players, and I believe it to be legit. Now, I'll make sure these are legit companies that I'm setting alongside, but ultimately, it's my money. I want to do with my money what I please.
Well, yeah, so look, put it this way. If in society, no matter what job you did, you were paid the same amount of money. No matter what you did in your life, you would never own your own house. You would never have, enough money to go, and the only holiday destination would be, like, let's just say Mallorca, right? You're not allowed to go. Mauritius is off limits, etc. What happens eventually? People stop trying. People stop bothering.
I'm literally, as you're talking, I'm writing down incentives. Why do people do anything in life?
And this is it. And at the minute, we have a situation where basically you're capped at paying players a certain amount of money. That cap is much lower than what other countries are allowed to pay their players. English players are basically not allowed to play for any club that isn't in England if they want to get picked for the national team. So you're essentially saying, millionaires, please come and get involved in Premiership rugby. And you won't win because it's a total lottery, because it doesn't matter. You can only get so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. People, personally, right, I don't think people want to see a league where every single team's even, because what you've done there is forego out-and-out excellence for the pursuit of a level playing field. And that isn't life.
And then what ends up happening, the league then, I would assume, becomes worse, because you mentioned certain players, obviously English players may have to stay here for certain reasons, but a lot of the other players will chase the money. Of course, so why is the Premier League as big as it is? Why do we attract players from all over the world? Why does everybody want to play in England? And that's true, by the way, everybody. Even a lot of the Spanish players now want to play in England. It's because the level of football is that high and we attract the very best. Now, it's tougher for England players to play in the Premier League. Of course it is, because you're having to then play with the world's best players. But that, in turn, is also raising the level of the Premier League. I just worry for English rugby, the league format being as it is, that eventually you'll drain a lot of the talent away. I mean, what will happen now with Saracens? Do you know what? Short term, Exeter, Harlequins, whoever it is, if the sanctions are taken against Harlequins, if they're stripped of their titles, do you know what? Short term, they'll be happy. Give it 4 or 5 years when suddenly rugby's really in the doldrums. It'll be interesting to see whether they think this would have been a wise move then.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's that case, isn't it, of it's cheeky, really, to demand your English players only play in England, then put salary caps on those clubs, to need multi-millionaires to lose money, by the way, every single year, lose money running a rugby club, and just expect them to do that with no possible, metric of what success they're going to get. At least with the Saracens guy, he's weighed it up, hasn't he? Clearly, for his main motivation is not making money, because he's not going to out of the rugby team. It's winning stuff. So he's weighed it up and gone, right, well, if I'm going to sink this amount of money into a rugby club every single year, how do I maximise my chances at the end of that year of getting some form of success? And that's what he's done. That's why he's set up these investment firms. That's why he's attracted the top talent. If you take that away from him, why does he stick around? Yeah. Why does anyone like him stick around? And this is the classic thing of, not in my backyard, these NIMBYs. And you get a lot of them up north, so I know a thing or two about it, where they go, oh, no, it's for local people. The game needs to stay the same way. It's got to be like this. All right, well, you end up then the king of nothing. You are sat there in total control of absolutely naffle.
Mediocrity.
This is also a thing I know a lot about.
Right, Patrick, have you had enough of extortionate rises when you renew your insurance? You could be saving big money by switching to a cheaper deal. A spokesman said.com compares all the best deals on car and home insurance to find you the one that saves you the most cash. Go to a spokesman said.com and start saving today. We are joined now by Mr. Kelvin McKenzie, former editor of The Sun. I believe you might have a word or two to say on this matter.
Well, about that matter, I'll tell you what I've got a word to say about. I had the misfortune of listening to the Today programme today. They are completely up their rear end. So Priti Patel has coming up with a Australian-style issue so that we only take people into our country who can add value to our country. But, really? What a novel idea. What, rather than the detritus to the rest of the world who want a free handout in a council house? Yes, that's the idea. Anyway, so that's in the manifesto. Included in that is quite a good idea to fast-track doctors or nurses from around the world to come in. Why? Because for some inexplicable reason, we can't produce enough of them. Why is that? Why don't we just produce more medical schools? Why don't we lower the bar slightly from 3 AAA star pupils to go into medical school? I mean, do something. I mean, it's not rocket science now. When you're not feeling very well, you go on Google. Previously, you used to go down to the... and the other thing we should do is also start charging people to go to their GPs, because I tried to get in 3 days ago and was told they could, and I said I'd see any doctor. And then the receptionist said, well, they don't want to see you. No, I said I'd see any doctor. And they said, we can't see you until November the 28th. Wow. That's any doctor. This is a massive practice. It's like Waterloo Station down there. Anyway, we can't get them. Anyway, under this fast track, so it's a good idea. So this po-faced old tosser on the Today programme, Robinson, right, the former political editor, and former, by the way, chairman of the Conservative group at the University of Oxford, announces, we asked Priti Patel to come on, but she couldn't make it, and instead of that, we've been sent some junior Home Office minister. Why on earth should Priti Patel have to go on the radio? Who gives a toss what the Today listeners think, or even the Today editors think? She's probably got about 28 million asks to go onto various media. I asked her on to Love Sport. Do you know what she said? She didn't reply. You know, so this is the issue. So Kay Burley, by the way, the woman who advertises plastic, even although the station itself is hostile to plastic, right? She advertises it on her face, likes to write about it, and occasionally you wouldn't know it. She probably breaks into a smile, which probably comes out about 12 hours after the joke, I should think. Anyway, putting that to one side, Cleverly, the chairman of the Conservative Party, was asked to go on there. He doesn't go on there, so she empty chairs him.
Yeah.
Well, empty chairs. What about her? Empty brain every morning, right? He has a choice of either appearing on Sky News or, at, I don't know, some ridiculous hour with no audience, right? I quite understand there's no audience, or he can go somewhere else, like Good Morning Britain, for instance, where it has a big audience, and at least there's somebody in the shape of Piers Morgan and one of his colleagues who's got some brains. These media Herberts are getting totally above themselves. And anyway, it was also an insult to Priti Patel's junior Home Office minister, a lady on there, who was, basically treated as though it was something that the dog had brought in. They're getting above themselves. And the other thing that will definitely be happening is that the audiences for these kinds of shows during this run-up to the election will simply be collapsing. It was bad enough Brexit with no resolve, but another 5 or 6 weeks of this. So I think you'll see the audiences for the news shows going down. But anyway, I just thought it's disgraceful the way the politicians don't have to put up with all this. They're bloody sneering. You got that. Who's that lady on the Newsnight?
Emily Maitlis.
Yeah, who's getting paid 300 grand a year for what looks like a 3-night week, by the way. Please, really? Where is that job? Oh, yes, all you have to do is have a face that looks as though it's been hit firmly by a frying pan, and you can probably get straight in. Well, hold on a second. Evan Davis did it before. He'd been hit by the double frying pan, and she's only been hit by one. Am I being unfair?
Legally, yes. Personally, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the frying pan. I thought that Danny Kerr stuff was the most interesting because it actually was making the point that people had lost their jobs. They hadn't got medals they were entitled to. It was a reasonable point. It was the best point. After all, the guy had played 80-odd times for England anyway, hadn't he?
I don't buy it.
And he'd also got done twice for drunkenness, by the way, in the Weybridge area.
Right, okay.
So there we are. That's how I know.
Well, there is that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, look, it was an interesting point. He's perfectly entitled to his opinion, don't get me wrong, but it was. I can't help but feel it's sour grapes.
Well, it is sour grapes. If I thought, by the way, if Owen Farrell, the Vinipolas, etc., hadn't played for Harlequins for Saracens, right? Would they have won, or had they been one had gone to Exeter Chiefs, one gone to Sale Sharks, one gone to this? Supposing it's the four of them.
But it seems to me anyway to hinge now on what the details of these investment firms are, and it seems to be taking quite a while for that to come out.
Yeah. Well, they must have already seen it. That's why they found against them. Look, I am a massive fan of Nigel Ray.
Yeah.
Why? He's an investor in Love Sport.
Yay!
Nige, we love you. Have you got my latest prospectus? Pardon? What? You're busy? You can't respond. Shocking.
On that note, stay tuned. Martin Bell coming up next. Thanks for listening. 3 minutes to 10.
Love Sport.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money. But time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer. And Macmillan can help with that too.